Hello, welcome everyone. Let's give this stream a couple of minutes and we will allow the notifications to go out so that people can join us on this stream. My name is Omar. I'm a host here at Watchers Talk, coming at you guys from West Coast, British Columbia. Today is the Reconciliation Day, Truth and Reconciliation Day in Canada. This is the first time ever that this is happening, and this is in response, guys, to the graves and the bodies that anthropologists and archaeologists have been finding from the residential school era here in Canada, where thousands and thousands of children were murdered under the Residential School Act of Canada. But recently, this has been changing. All the residential schools in Canada have been shut down, and yesterday there was a massive order from the Supreme Court of Canada telling the government of Canada that they need to, pay the children that were taken away to these residential schools and removed from their families, billions and billions of dollars, which is a good thing. And today, September the 30th, is the first day of the Truth and Reconciliation Day. It is a stat holiday across Canada, except for a couple different provinces. And one of those provinces is British Columbia. I'm extremely disappointed that it's not a stat holiday, or it's not even recognized. There's a few activities that are happening across the province, but that's about it. There are, other provinces that have declared today as a stat holiday and a day to go out and to do reconciliation. So before we begin this stream, guys, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here today, and just to recognize what's happened here in Canada, what's happened in the United States, and what's happened in Australia with the Aboriginal and the Indigenous people. We know exactly what's happened. So if we can just please take a moment of silence to observe this moment and to show respect to those who have passed and those who are struggling to repair this damage. So let's please take a moment of silence and pay our homage and honors to those who have gone by and those who are struggling to continue this fight forward, so that the indigenous people can be treated equally in Canada, United States, and Australia. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking that moment of silence. And now we are going to get down to some business, talking about some ancient stuff. And let's do some shout outs here. Let's bring our good buddy, Michael Feeley, onto the screen. Hello, Love and Light. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Greetings to you. Doc Carla, I think that's Doc Duchess Carla, welcome, nice to see you here today. Full Spectrum Universe, Rob Yox, welcome, brother. Guys, cruise on over to Full Spectrum Universe and subscribe to the channel, give it a like, hit that bell so you get the notification. Rob does a lot of work similar to mine, and I do a lot of work similar to Rob's. But we do have our own differences when we're doing these kinds of things. We collaborate a lot. So, please subscribe to his channel. He just passed 1,000 subs, and he needs, I believe, about 48 more hours of viewing time to monetize his channel. So we'd really appreciate it if you guys can cruise on over and watch his channel and give him the hours that he needs so that he can monetize his channel and begin to get some sort of payout from YouTube for all the hard work that he's done. Hello, Sandra Capola. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. HSB, nice to see you here, brother. Thank you very much for being here. Keith Baker, welcome. This is going to be a wonderful show. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Just before we begin, please consider subscribing to this channel. The button's down below, and then hit that bell so that you get notifications for when Watchers Talk goes live. Please check your subscription status. You never know if YouTube, uncensored or unsubscribed you, whatever the case may be. Just double check that. And as well, YouTube has given us the option of having members join our channel. And so I've gone ahead and put the 2 levels of membership up on our join tab. Please consider joining our channel because it will help us a great deal, and also it will help the entire community as well, because with your contribution, it will allow me to reach out to speakers that I otherwise would not have access to, because, some of these guys want to get paid for presenting and giving us downloads. So with your help, this was give us an opportunity to reach out to those speakers. So with that being said, I have with me my good buddy, Michael Feeley. The guy needs no introductions. And today we are, focused on a particular subject. And as well, guys, before I go on, head on over to Michael Feeley's channel as well and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell, because Mike is always putting up some really, really interesting videos that, as you guys know, because you guys know Michael Feeley's work a lot. So head on over there and subscribe to his channel as well. So today our talk is based on the secrets of the pyramids, a message for humanity. So this is our focus here for today, guys. You can order this book. Cruise on over to michael-feeley.com and place your order. And if you order directly from his website, you will get a little note along with the book. And if you order that from Amazon, of course, you won't get that. And then who needs to make Jeff Bezos any richer? There's no need for that. So, just cruise on over to Michael Feeley's website and order his books from there. And he's got a lot of books on there. I've got them here on my shelf. And he's got a number of other books that are coming out as well. Lindy Lou, hello, welcome, sister. Nice to have you as always. Wonderful to see you. So, Mike, we're going to be talking about the pyramids, the secrets of the pyramids. I've gone through this book, and I've read it several times, and there are a lot of good things in here. And there's one of the things that I, was never. That I never understood, but after reading your book, the light dawned on me, and I was like, wow, this guy's incredible, because we're talking about in the beginning of the book when you were describing the Egyptian deities and gods and such, like Isis and Horus and Osiris and stuff. And one of the very first thing that stuck out at me when you were talking, when you said, Horus is it's based on the sun. Let me pull that up here for a second. And then you were talking the origins of the word hours, right? So many hours in the day, and such as so many minutes in the day, and things like that. And then you connected that to Horus, to hours of the day. That I thought that was pretty cool. Let me quickly just read this before we jump in here. Where is it? There we go. So this is chapter 3, the gods of Egypt. It says, the Egyptians worshipped many gods and goddesses, and the mainstream has its own version of meaning and what they stood for. This is not entirely correct. There is a much deeper meaning to these gods and goddesses, and although there were aplenty, I have listed a few of them below with a brief summary only at this stage, as I reference them throughout the book, giving their real meaning. Horus was the sun at dawn, from where we get the word horizon, meaning Horus rising. That's brilliant. It is also where we get the word hours, Horus anagram in our time system. Where is the sun now? What hour, Horus, is it? The clock is representation of the sun, hour, moon, minutes, and Mercury, which has the fastest orbit around the sun, seconds on the clock. Now that's really really cool. I thought that's like one of the things that really stood out at me in this book, because I didn't know before, or never did I even think in my mind the where the word hour comes from. Right. And then after having read this book, and then describing what where the hour came from, and what Horus is, and what the real meaning behind Horus is, my mind was blown. So let's start there, Mike, with the gods, right? And then as we talk about the gods, and then people can become familiar with these deities, and then we can move forward and begin to talk about the pineal gland, and what the pyramid represents, and biology and all of that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Horus, yes, Horus risen, the horizon. It is also hour. So where is the sun now? Where is Horus now? What hour is it? It is also where we get the word horoscope. So we can also bring astronomy and astrology into the mix as well. So Horus, yes, it is predominantly the sun, or should we say the solar logos, which is the personification of celestial light. And when you look at what God is, when you look at the gods that have always been worshipped, it is magic formulas. And when you look at Egypt, when you look at Egyptian magic, when you look at how the likes of the Kabbalah have stolen that and sort of rejigged it to suit their own civilization and their own culture. But all the gods are really magic formulas, and they are either two-fold, three-fold, or four-fold keys and a magic formula. So the word God itself is not what you think it is. Now, when you look at numbers, the number 10 is the whole of creation. So when you look at the likes of the symbol of the mysteries, which is the pentagram, which is the number 5, that is half of the whole of creation. So therefore, the pentagram represents man as a miniature universe, as a microcosm of the universe, the number 10. Now, when you look at the pentagram is 4 elements plus 1, the ether. So man can be complete within the pentagram, which is half of the whole of creation. So when you look at what the 4 elements are, which is obviously your fire, your air, your water, your earth, that is the elements from which everything is created, and those elements are within ourselves. So when you look at the word God, the G represents water, the O represents earth, the D represents fire, and of course we are told that God creates with breath, which is air. So the word God is really a code for the 4 elements. Now, we need to master ourselves by controlling those 4 elements within us. And how do you do that? By controlling your emotions. So if you are always angry, then the fire element is out of control. If you are always in tears, if you are always sad, then the water element is out of control. Now, when you don't look after your body, then the earth element is out of control. When you are not in control of your thoughts, the air element is out of control. So we must balance the 4 elements within us in order to connect with the God within, which then becomes the God man, which then connects to the Godhead, which is what the Egyptians were talking about with all their gods and what these gods represent. It represents the Godhead. So we have to control the emotions, we have to control the 4 elements within us, which then turns us into a divine being on earth, which is completed man, which is the pentagram, which is also what the pyramids represent, as well as many other things. So the gods are magic formulas in letters and sequence of letters, and that is a 2-fold, 3-fold, or 4-fold key. When you see the likes of Yahweh or Jehovah, which is a tetragrammaton, which is always written with 4 letters, then that, of course, again, is the four elements. When you see the likes of Ra, Ra is a twofold key, which is the utterance of the 10 manifestations, which then correlates to the Hebrew Kabbalah Seraphos, which is the tree of life of 10 emanations. So the gods are magic formulas, and they are able to evoke beings of higher or lower density by creating certain conditions. And that is why in the likes of magic you have a circle and you have a triangle, because that creates the space, it creates the environment for these entities, whether lower or higher density frequency beings, come into that space, and you can control that environment. Now, when you look at the pyramid, which is a triangle, and which is upon a circle, so we have the circle and the triangle, which is a magic formula, which is evoking beings. So gods are not what you think they are. They are magic formulas. The word God itself relates to the four elements, and everything relates to the self. Now, when you look at the word self, within the word self, you have EL, which is God. So you have the God within self. Now, you need to balance yourself. You need to control your emotions. You need to calm and control the four elements within. And that way, you will become a divine, completed man or woman, the pentagram on earth. And that is really, in a very, very succinct way, that is what the gods represent. And of course, they all represent sometimes different things. When you have the goddess Isis, which is also in the book, when you look at the eye, that is the spine. When you look at the two S's, the likes of the caduceus or the medical logo, the two serpents are the two S's of Isis. So ISS, which is Isis, which relates to the balancing of the Ida and the Pingala up the spine, which leads to consciousness, and that is a coded meaning of Isis. So we have all of these seats of enlightenment and rituals and magic formulas and certain words and certain letters that are evoking these manifestations within the three kingdoms, which is the material world, the mental world, and the ether, the astral. So we are all basically connecting those three elements. And depending upon how many letters we use of a sacred name, depends upon which realm or which domain that you evoke these beings. So there's a world of magic in these sacred places, and they were using them to evoke certain frequency beings into this realm.
I've I've always thought before I got into all of this, and when I was asleep, I used to talk to my friends, and we would talk about Egypt and all of these gods and such. And there's one thing that was always prevalent with me that I've always said was, how is it that these people in ancient times spent 24 hours 7 days a week worshiping gods? Right, that didn't make any sense to me, right? Because I thought, hey, there's more to life than to worship a god. You wake up in the morning, you're worshiping a god, and then all the way throughout the day you're worshiping the god. You go to sleep, you're worshiping the god, and you're almost like living in fear of this god, right? So it never really made sense to me, and I always knew that there was something odd with all of these gods. And then after having read your book, and after having talked to you for about the last several years and all the conferences that we've done, it's really made sense to me that they weren't talking about gods, that they're actually talking about astrology and have to do with our body. And what I really enjoyed about this book, Mike, was that you really make a person understand exactly what gods and what God is in the Egyptian pantheon, and how we've interpreted those gods, and then how you're interpreting it and showing us that, hey, this is not the case. There wasn't no Isis that was walking around here on the planet. That is just a metaphor. Like here in the book, I'll read it here. It's defining Isis. Since we just spoke about Isis, it says, here's the image, guys. If you guys want to see it, let me bring this up right here. Um, right there. This is the one that I'm going to read here pretty quick. This is interesting. It says Isis, Sophis, meaning wisdom. Sophis is sophisticated, astronomically serious, and lunar moon is the goddess of fertility and the original Mother Mary. Now, can you go into a little bit of detail as to how Isis is the original Mother Mary and how this is connected to what we think Mother Mary is? Because from our perspective and from everybody else's perspective as well, up until now, we've always correlated Mother Mary to Mary, Jesus's mom, or we've either locked it in with Mary Magdalene as well. So this is like completely different. Now I understand that Christianity has its origin in much older religions and traditions and such, and Isis would be one of those. So can you give us a little synopsis on how Isis is Mother Mary? Because Isis, got to remember, Isis, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit, where Isis had to go out and collect 14 pieces of Osiris and put him back together and then breathe life into him. That's one of the main stories of the Egyptian pantheon. But we'll get into that here a little bit. But first, I'd like to wrap my brain around the the Mother Mary aspect of this.
Okay. The Mother Mary Christ story is really a regurgitation of the Isis and Horus mother-child. Now, when you look at the cow horns, the heifer horns, that is symbolic of the womb, and the sun inside those cow horns is really the house of Horus. So heifer means house of Horus. So we see the Christ within the womb. Now, Mother Mary is obviously the so-called mother of Christ. When you look at Isis, which is motherhood, which is fertility, which is also a moon cult, a feminine moon cult, because the ancients realized very, very early on in our existence that the moon was connected to menstrual cycles, which is the red wine of the chalice, which is the womb, which is Mary Magdalene. But they realized that the moon was connected to cycles, was connected to fertility. So that's where we got all the fertility goddesses and different things, which was in Egypt, which one of them was Isis. When you look at the Sphinx of Egypt and also the face on Mars, that is the face of Isis. And there's certain things that I'm working on now and putting things together that show you that the hole in the head of the Sphinx was where they used to have the heifer horns, and I've put pictures together to show that in a visual way. Now, when you look at why there are 9 pyramids, that is because they represent the 9 months of gestation of a child. So if you imagine the soul comes through the Silver Gate of Orion, where you have alignments from Jerusalem, you have the Vatican City has alignment to Silver Gate of Orion. When you come through into this realm, you are birthed from celestial to the terrestrial. The only way you can do that is through the Holy Grail, which is the womb, which is the uterus. So the 9 pyramids represent the 9 months of gestation of a child. Now we see the 9 pyramids in sets of 3, which represent the 3 months, the 3 months, the 3 trimesters of the 9 months of pregnancy. So the biggest 3 in the middle, the biggest 3 pyramids represent the 3rd and final trimester, which is when medical science tells us the consciousness enters the child. So the main 3 pyramids are the 3rd and final trimester of the pregnancy, the gestation. So what the Egyptians were telling us is you come through the Silver Gate of Orion, which is the gate of man. You come into this world through the womb, the Mary Magdalene, the Holy Grail, the vessel of God. You spend 9 months in gestation, and then you come out into this world. So the giant Sphinx represents also the womb, and it represents coming out of the womb into the matrix, which is this. Hence the reason that the face of the Sphinx is Isis, and what is missing from that is the heifer horns, which also represent the womb. So we have the symbology of coming into this world, but we have the symbology amongst that of being reborn and becoming the children of the higher city. Now, when you look in the Bible and you see the images of the visions of the city in the sky, that is really where you are the children of the higher city, which is Jerusalem. So Jerusalem represents the body. It represents you and me. Now, when we go through certain initiations, shall we say, we are reborn into the world, into the higher city, and we leave behind the earthly mother city, which is Earth. So the reason that Isis and Mary are one of the same is because they represent fertility, they represent Earth, they represent motherhood, and they represent the birth of the solar logos, which is really the celestial force of life, which is contained within the Hatha horns, which get down in the womb, and so on and so on. So Mary is a later version of Isis, and Jesus is a later version of Horus. And we have all of these different things, and I go certainly deep into the books, into telling you that the original Bible is the oracle in stone, which is the Giza plateau. So everything that is in the Bible is also in the Giza plateau and was in the Giza plateau originally. Noah's Ark, for example, is the Great Pyramid. The actual identity of Christ is the Great Pyramid. And we have all of these different Egyptian Christianity, but the Egyptians knew more than their Christian imitators ever did. Now, all of these different things, as I said before, the gods were magic formulas in order to evoke things, but were also formulas to enhance themselves. And all of this is quite prevalent when you look into these things deep enough. And talking about magic and everything, when you look at the word priest comes from the word magush. Magush gives us the word magi. Magi gives us the word magician. So the original priests were magicians. And of course, they were using these sacred letters in different sequences with different tones, different volumes to evoke certain deities as part of a magical formula. So, for argument's sake, when you look at in the beginning was the word, well, what is a word? It's an ordered sequence of letters, which again goes into a magic formula. So when you speak at a certain tone, for argument's sake, if you speak the letter A at a tone of G major, then you create light blue. Hence the reason we have a light blue sky. If you do the same with the letter U, you get black. This is why we have nighttime sky. So really, in the beginning was the word, was creation, which is a vibration of an ordered sequence of letters. And when we have a thought and when we express that thought, it goes into an ordered sequence of letters, which is the word. So the Bible is really a remake of the Giza plateau. And also, when you look at the equivalents of Isis and Mary in other cultures, where you have the likes of Ishtar, Diana, and things like that, they are all, including Isis and Mary, are also known as the Queen of Heaven. Now, the Queen of Heaven is Lucifer, which is really the hierarchy of Saturn. So we have all of this astronomy, we have this magic, we have all of these different systems of worship that bear no resemblance to what we are taught in the mainstream arena. And it is a world of magic. It is a world of mimicry. It is a world of regurgitated stories in order to protect the sacred knowledge of who these characters really are.
I had myself muted there for a second. When you're talking about Jesus being the expression of Horus, now when I was hearing that, I was thinking back to other things as well. Now, in history, we have likes of other people that have the same qualities as Jesus and Horus would. Like, for instance, born on December 25th, born from a virgin. We have Mithra, Krishna, We can just go on and on and on, where we have all these different deities throughout time that share the same qualities as Horus or as Jesus Christ. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because we have all these different individuals that share the same qualities, but yet we only refer to Jesus in this manner. Uh, can you shed a little light on like these other aspects that I'm talking about?
You can, and as I say, by the time we get to the story of Christ, that's the exact same story has been used many, many times before by different religions, because it is the same people at the hub of these religions that hold on to the secret. If you imagine the actual secret, that the true secret is the bark of the tree, which is also symbolic because the original codes were inscriptions on the barks of trees, ironically. But if you see the sort of real essence and the real origin of the true meanings of these religions, that is the bark of the tree. And each of the branches is a story. And, one branch could be Islam, one branch could be Hinduism, one could be Sikhism, one could be Christianity, one could be Catholicism. But nevertheless, the bark of the tree is always the same. And the information that is contained in the bark of the tree, the people who are in the bark of the tree are always the same. And that knowledge has always been passed on to initiates, to the chosen ones, to maintain the secrecy of that knowledge. Now, when you look at a tree, the roots represent the unseen, the secret world, because they are out of sight. And when you blaspheme just means to uproot. So you are uprooting the unseen into the public arena to be seen. So that is really what a blasphemer is. But yes, there are so many different deities that had the same story as the Christ story, because none of these actually existed. They were metaphors. So why the 25th of December? Well, there is there's astronomy involved in that with the sun again, as you would imagine. But also the Romans, who edited the majority of religious texts around the world, the Church of Rome, the Council of Shadows, were basically editing and removing it and changing sacred text and hiding their true meanings. So they had a deity, Sol Invictus, which was basically a sun cult of Rome. And Sol Invictus, ironically, was born on the 25th of December. So what the Council of Nicaea and the Church of Rome wanted to do was to fool Christians into believing that they were worshipping the birth of their Christ, when in reality they were worshipping the Roman cult of Sol Invictus. So they actually mashed it. It's like getting ingredients and putting stuff in there that people don't want, but because you're mixing that flavour with all other flavours, they can't taste it. And that's exactly what happened in relation to the 25th of December. Of course, the true birth date of the heavenly Christ is September, not December. But they wanted to lead people astray and get them to secretly, unknowingly, worship the Roman cults under the mask, under the guise of Christianity. So we have a lot of deception. We have a lot of secrets. We have a lot of false stories that were deliberately put in place and set in motion so that people would be worshipping things that they didn't realise they were worshipping, or worshipping things that never really existed, because that was taking them away from the truth. Excuse me. So there are many, many cases. I mean, Christ is the initiated soul. Christ is the divine mind. And each and every one of us have the potential to activate the Christ within. But of course, the Church of Rome, that wanted to control people, didn't want people to know this. They didn't want people to know that they are, godlike potential, because they are miniature universes. They didn't want people to realise this, otherwise they would have no control over them. That they needed people to believe, as the Bible calls them, miserable offenders. They wanted them to believe that they were miserable offenders, that they were nothing without the church. They couldn't connect to the highest forms of deities without the church, or with the priests, or with the Pope. And they've made people believe this all along. And some of the stuff that they've taken out of the Bible, some of the scriptures that they've taken out, tell you of your sanctity. The Gospel of St. Thomas tells you that everything you need is within you, and you will survive with the things that you have if you bring what you have within to the forefront. But a control system doesn't want you to realize this, and it wants you to always be worshipping something outside of yourself, because yourself is where God is. It is the true home of God. It is the true house of God. It's the body, which is the temple of God. Because you are God, you are a fragment of God. And as I said, God is really the four elements. And breath is important in all of these cultures. You know, we have Jesus, who is the bread, who is the breath of life. We have Amun-Ra, who people believe is the sun god, but he's predominantly a god of air, god of wind, who creates breath. You have the likes of Enlil in the Anunnaki story, who is the god of wind, which is the god of air. You know, you have God breathing the breath of life into Adam. You have all of these different things relating to breath. Even the word soul relates to breath. Even, you know, the word name, we all have a name. Well, name relates to breath. We are oxygenated capsules, you know, we are isotopes of oxygen. Nothing exists without oxygen, nothing exists without air. So it is all the air of life. We are walking airs of life. But all of these different religious characters, all of these gods of the ancient past relate to these elements. And it's the elements that we must control in order to become God-like.
Now, there's one thing that I'm having a hard time with, Mike, is I understand, I fully understand what you mean by Christ as being a metaphor. But then, when I look around and I do some research, the thing that really I run into is that there are stories coming from the East, out of India, from Kashmir, from Tibet, China, and as well as Japan, saying that after the crucifixion of Jesus by the Romans, that he was somehow saved off of the cross, and that and then he traveled into the Far East, into India and such, up into Tibet, and actually has a ministry there that has the same goals as the ministry that he was trying to run in Jerusalem. So why is it that we have this character Jesus that is said to have lived in Asia after the crucifixion? Now, are we talking about the same individual, or are we talking about someone who understood this knowledge and went out east and began to teach these teachings to everybody else?
What we're looking at is the same metaphor in a different guise, in a different language, in a different description. Now, the reason the East is important is because that is where the sun rises, in the East. When you look at the word Oriental or Orient, it is the same as orienteering. In other words, you are orienteering yourself to the light. That is Oriental. You are, navigating towards the light, the East. Now, when you look at the likes of the cross, of course, has several meanings, but one of them is the four elements. Now, when you look at the word Inri, it means the mastery of the four elements. So it goes again into what I was saying earlier. Now, when you look at initiations, the Christ is talking about initiations. The resurrection is the resurrection of self, which is the rebirth of self. Now, when you look at the like of the fourth initiation is the cross. It is the sacrifice of worldly things. Now, the story of Christ is really the different stages of initiations. And the character Christ as a man never existed. Now, when you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you look at certainly the parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls that were never captured by the Romans and they were hidden by the Knights Templars, I have actually discovered where they've hidden them in Roslin Chapel, which is the rose line. Now, Roslin is rose line, which the rose is symbolic of the yoni of Mary Magdalene, again of the Holy Grail. But the Templars hid these Dead Sea Scrolls, the Cumberland Cave Scrolls. Now, what is striking about them is they were written by Jewish mystics around the same time as this King of the Jews supposedly lived. But what is striking is Christ is not mentioned once, ever, by name, by description, by anything else, because the character of Christ didn't exist. It's the same as saying that there was a physical exodus with Moses. There wasn't a physical exodus with Moses because that is a metaphor. That is a metaphor from going from the root chakra, which is captivity, to going to the crown chakra, which is the promised land, the land promised, enlightenment. And in Gnostic terms, that journey is the path of least resistance, which they call the open sea. There even Israeli archaeologists have come out and given public statements in the mainstream and otherwise that have said in 70 years of excavations, we have not found one single piece of physical evidence that the Exodus occurred because it didn't. It's a metaphor. So when you start taking these stories in different places, you will see that it is a different way of describing the same thing. So Christ didn't go to India. Christ didn't exist as a physical man. What Christ really is something far greater. It is the inner potential of each and every one of us. So we are all Christ. We are all inner light. We are all potentially an initiated soul. And that really is a far greater magnitude than one single flesh and blood person walking around the Middle East.
I get it. I get it. So, when you're saying the Oriental, is the orientation, and then when we look at Japan, right, they're known as the land of the rising sun, right? Is that more esoteric label that they've used there in relation to this knowledge that we're talking about, the rising sun, and your orientation from your root chakra to your crown chakra?
Well, to orientate yourself is to basically align yourself to the light, which is the east, which is where the sun rises. So, yes, it has that connotation as well. And it's the same as now. If we were both to witness something, the way that I would describe what we've both seen would be different, I would say, to how you describe it. And that really is when you have different people telling the same metaphor, telling the same story, containing the same kind of information, but they express it and they write it differently. So yes, we have the sun really, the light has always been synonymous with the truth, because of course, with the light is how we see. So the truth has always been associated with light, and the light travels in a straight line. So for argument's sake, point A and point B, you have the question and the answer, the seeker and the sought. And between those 2 points is the path of least resistance. It is a straight line. And that's why you get, the saying, I can never get a straight answer. Because the light, which is the truth, travels in a straight line. And the reason you have the lights of the pyramids with lines such as that is because that represents the straight line path of least resistance of truth, of light. So the light has always been seen with the seers, with people who can see, and with knowledge and with wisdom. So when you are orientating yourself towards the light, you are orientating yourself towards the truth. And that really, Oriental, the Orient, the East, the Hinamori, which is the rising sun flag of Japan, it has always represented the truth, to be able to see the knowledge, the wisdom.
I see. I get it now. I thought that's what you would say, but I totally get it now. Here, I want to actually just quickly read a little part out of the book. It's on page 61, the Genesis, the gene of Isis. In it, you've written, Jesus was not a man. So what was he? The Christ. I'm just going to read just a couple of chapters, guys. HSB, I'll quickly get to that question. Just bear with me for one moment, please. It says, in my book, The Secret of Christ, the Christos Code, I go deep into the astronomical meaning of religion at all. I'm about to briefly mention a little astronomy now to enhance a point. However, since this book is more about genetic consciousness, it will revert back to the human body, albeit the universe and the human body are connected by medical astronomy and are one of the same. There are simply just microcosmic and macrocosmic versions of each other. Jesus was the anointed one. The anointed means the oil. He is the Messiah, the anticipated Savior. When people speak of and refer to Jesus, many believe in a physical man who walked the Middle East. The character Jesus was the man. It is a story that is referring to each of us. It is talking about ourselves. We are all Christ, and each and every one of us. And there's how. Imagine ancient man struggling for survival on planet Earth. The dark of night. The dark of night looms, a time when he was vulnerable and open to be hunted by larger carnivores, unable to effectively see his surroundings, seeking shelter and warmth and protection. Then, after he spotted the planet Venus, he had the promise of the sun, as he knows the sun rises second in the sky after the morning star. Now, the thing that really struck out at me and wanted to ask you about was, can you um, explain to us what medical astronomy is, right? I've never heard that term besides in this book. Maybe it is out there that I haven't come across, but this is the first time I've come across it. And I was struggling to understand that. And I Googled it and kind of what have you, right? And I still didn't get a total grasp on it. So that maybe you can help us understand what you mean by medical astronomy.
Okay. The zodiac is really the 12 initiators, and each of them have their own energies that affect the earth and affect the body. When you look at zodiacal man, which is the same thing, each part of our body correlates to a zodiac, a part of the zodiac. So, for argument's sake, the 2 feet are Pisces, higher mind is Aries, the lamb of God. The lower, the neck is Taurus. So when you have Taurus as the new age, it is a stubborn. So it is a stiff neck. It is stubborn Taurus. And so when you have Leo, it is connected to the heart. That is why you have historic characters such as Richard the Lionheart, because each part of the zodiac, the constellations of the zodiac, correlate to different parts of the body exactly, and that is what is medical astrology or medical astronomy. It is the same as saying the zodiacal man. So each part of us represents a part of the zodiac, which are the 12 disciples, the 12 initiators with their energies. So that in effect is basically the correlation between the zodiacs, or the 12 zodiac signs, and the body, and that is what it meant.
Now, wasn't there, like, back in the day, 13 zodiacs, and then it was changed to 12?
Yes, Ophiuchus, who is the serpent, is the 13th. But again, that goes a lot into the feminine. It goes a lot into the matriarchal society, which was the original worship. So the Roman Church again cut that out and made it 12 to basically eradicate the feminine aspect of the zodiac. So yes, we were then reduced to 12, which of course the 12 disciples, now the 12 tribes of Israel, so on and so on.
And then when you add the numerology, 2 + 1 = 3. So we have, that the 369 here in play again, right? Very interesting.
I mean, when you look at numerology, Jesus Christ, when you look at Christ in Hebrew gematria, which is the numerical value of words and letters, Christ is 37. Now, the number of man is 6. So if you times 37 times 6, it gives you 222. A lot of people are saying to me, I keep seeing 222, including yourself, and different colour. So 222 is basically the Christ man, or the Christ within man is 222, and that is the numerical message of that. So when you look at words and letters, and I spoke at the beginning about magic formulas and different like that, words and letters are also clothed in numbers. So we have power numbers, like the letter M. Now, when you look at the letter M, within it, you have the letter V, which is the uterus, which is the Holy Grail, which is the chalice, and M is the first letter of mother, which is material. So you have the womb, within the mother's womb, the Holy Grail. If you turn the letter M upside down, you get the W for womb. Now, the letter M relates to the number 40. So, you know, when you have the mother's waters, and you have in Hebrew, mem gives you MM, which is Mary Magdalene, which is Mother Mary. So you have the number 40, you reign for 40 days, 40 nights. Christ was 40 nights in the wilderness. Moses was 40 years in the desert. So number 40 relates to the mother, it relates to the water. It is also Enki's number in the Sumerian story. Now, Jesus in the Sumerian story is an incarnation of Enki. So we have all of these different things that relate to each other through numbers, through letters, through words, through hidden coded symbols, but it all means the same thing in a different way.
Okay, so two questions on this. Follow up on this is one is about 222 and the other one's about M. So I just got to say that to myself before, you know, I got a bad memory. I might forget. So when you say 222, let me bring myself on the screen here. When you say 222, and you know, when you continuously are seeing the number 222 and it's interacting with you, is that a you know, let's say a sign of the inner Christ consciousness that's you know, coming about within you, that the universe is trying to tell you something with that?
Yeah. When you look at the universe, my theory on that is it's basically computer software, and everything is a binary code.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because the universe is very, very mathematical, it is very, very numerical, everything follows a determined mathematical sequence. It stands to reason that numbers would be a way in which it communicates a message. You know, I've said before many times, you know, if I catch a plane now and land in China or Japan, would I really be surprised if someone starts speaking Japanese or Chinese to me? No, of course not. So why are we so surprised when a numerical universe speaks to us in numbers? And we are being spoken to in numbers with sequences of numbers. And of course, when you get a number that is multiplied, then that number becomes far more powerful. And it's a powerful message. And it's not very often that I remember a dream, but if I do remember a dream, that is something significant. And a lot of the time it refers to numbers or a number sequence that I need to look into for the message, really. It's like unwrapping the gifts at Christmas. You know, you have to unwrap these things to find out what it is, what it means. But 222, the same as any other numerics, are a particular message of a particular power frequency. And certainly when you get multiples of those numbers, it is enhancing the frequency by however many multiples it is.
Oh, I see. I see. So when you mentioned the Matrix, and then, you know, anytime somebody mentions the Matrix, my flags go up, right? Because I'm really into that. And earlier on, you were mentioning the number 10. Now, does that number 10 have anything to do with the binary code of 1 and 0 that you know, that we would see within the Matrix? Because you're not the only one that's mentioned the number 10. I had Gaz with me a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, as you guys might remember out there. He also was talking about the number 10 and how to center yourself around that number. So, you know, is there any correlation to the number 10 that you're speaking about to the binary code?
Yes, when there's only two binary numbers, but every number has a binary code. So you have 0, obviously nothing, and you have 1, which is duality. So when nothing, or when something comes from nothing, you get 0 and you get 1. Now, when you get the number 10, that is symbolic of something returning back to the nothing. So the something, everything returns back to the singularity, returns back to the void, returns back to the silence where everything is contained. The number 10, of course, is the creation of man as well. We are base 10 mathematics. We have 10 fingers, we have 10 toes, etc. We are base 10 mathematics. The vortex that we are within is base 10, 0 to 9, which is base 10 mathematics. So yes, it is the same numbers that are in binary code, because those are 0 and 1. Now, when you strip everything down to the very, very basics, everything comes down to a binary choice. Do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do I go out tonight? Do I stay in? Do I look at good over evil? All of these are binary choices. It comes down to two choices, which are binary. So the whole of the universe is a binary code. Now, I've seen the likes of clouds turn into numbers, binary numbers. I've seen different things that relate to a software reality of binary numbers. When you put a disk of numbers into a computer, it translates that into an image. So if you imagine that the universe is a binary code that our brains are in a computer's translating to an image, that image is the familiar world around us. But everything comes into a binary code, and of course the number 10 is seen as the whole of creation, but the numbers within the number 10 are something and nothing. They are binary code.
I see. I see. So, it's kind of cool that you mentioned that. Bring myself back onto the screen here. Just yesterday, I had an epiphany in my mind while I was sitting here and I was daydreaming. And, the epiphany was, something in my mind just said to me, that consciousness is nothing because everything arises out of nothing, right? So is consciousness nothing and everything at the same time? Because you were just mentioning zero and the one and the
Yeah,
and then, something coming out of nothing. So would consciousness be the same thing, like a no thing?
it would, because consciousness is also binary code, the same as gravity. The same, again, just an example of gravity. If I take this pen now and I loose it, it drops to the floor, which is zero. It is a negative force. If I were to pick that pen up and I take some kind of action, some kind of force, that is a positive force. That is the number one. Now, when those two positive and negatives meet at a 0 point, it basically becomes free energy, zero energy, which is what Nikola Tesla spoke about. So you have positive and negative action and reaction within everything. So consciousness is also a binary code, and again, even your thoughts, even your choices, even your rational thoughts are a binary choice. And it always comes down to a binary choice, a binary code. It's you either do it or you don't, and that is a binary choice. So consciousness has never really been defined other than it is an awareness of being aware. But it is a program in many respects, a determined program, and it does relate to binary code, which again is nothing and one. So when nothing creates something, you have duality as a comparison, and that is the number one. So everything that is within binary, including consciousness, including gravity, including the universe, including the planets, including everything that we see and know, has a binary code.
I see. Okay. That makes a lot more sense of what I was hearing yesterday. Thanks for clearing that up for me, Mike. Now back to the M, right? The two questions, right, turned into 20 questions. Now back to the M. With the M, you were saying that with the M we have the V, which is the Holy Grail, the chalice, and then when we turn that upside down, we have the W, which is the womb. Now we see the letter M being used in some secret societies, like the Masons and kind of what have you. Even Gmail is using that letter M. What is the significance of that? Like, what are these guys trying to tell us when they use that particular M as part of their logo?
Well, again, there's many different logos. You've got the letter E, which is the fifth element, which is the ether, which is the mastery of the four elements. The letter M is really the mater, the material, the mother. And when you go back really, really distant into the past, the whole ethos of religious systems, the whole ethos of systems of knowledge, was the self-here, was the knowledge, was the feminine, was the matriarchal system. So we are going back to the matriarchal system of motherhood. When we come into this world, we have to come through the mother. We have to come through the vessel of God, which is the womb. There is no other, there's no choice in this physical way in which we come into this world. The mother, even when you see the old burial mounds of the ancient past, which is the genital pit, it relates to the feminine principle. It relates to the yoni. It relates to the birth channel. When you look at Holy Communion, We are drinking, symbolically drinking the red yin juice, which is menstrual blood. The chalice. We are drinking the menstrual blood at Holy Communion. That's what we are doing. The original blood of Christ is menstrual blood. So we are looking at the feminine. We are looking at the mother. We are looking at the sacred gateway. And that is what they are telling us. It is the holy place, the holy gateway that we must pass through to enter into this reality, into this world. And that is what they are telling us, that the significance and the importance of the mother, of the vessel of God that we must pass through. And that is really the intrinsic thing. And again, number 40 relates to the letter M. And that is why we have so many mentions of 40 in the Bible, 40 in Sumerian, because again, the number of Enki is 40. We have 40 units in the mikvah bath of Judaism, which represents the womb experience. We have all of these things that relate to the mother and coming out of the mother's womb, the Holy Grail, into this world. And it is really acknowledging and worshipping the importance of the mother.
I see. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now. Now, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up question. Did they, when you mention the drinking of menstrual blood and drinking of semen, now, did they do this in actual reality, or is that in itself symbolic or something? Or did they like actually put blood in a chalice and then drink it, or put some sperm in a cup and drink it? Right? Because I think a
Yes.
lot of people are confused with that idea. If it was an actual practice that they were doing, or are they talking like metaphorically?
No, it was a summer of the mystics, the drink of the mystics, and they were actually doing it and still do. So when you look at what is contained within menstrual blood, first of all, it is stem cells, which is scientifically proven to rejuvenate. When you look at what type of energy is in menstrual blood, it is lunar energy, which again is the goddess. So they were drinking menstrual blood, they were drinking semen, and you have the holy schism, the holy fellatio, which is the certain sexual acts relates to giving the female the fluids of life, and the man was obviously drinking the female fluids of life. So they were the two fluids, the semen and the menstrual blood, were the fluids, the elixir of life. So it's an actual practice that they were doing. And when we go to Holy Communion and we are drinking red wine, or what is symbolic of red wine, it is really taken us back to drinking menstrual blood from the chalice, from the womb. And that is what the Holy Communion is really, the origin of the Holy Communion really is.
It brings up two things in my mind. One, I read an article a bunch of years ago where let me bring myself on here. I read an article a little while back where it was coming out of the Orient. I believe it was in China, and they were talking about the practice of drinking the placenta after the childbirth. Now, is that somehow connected to this practice that you're speaking of like menstrual blood drinking and semen drinking by the mystics? Are they
Yeah.
trying to replicate the same thing there? Because I thought that was like really offside. I was almost grossed out by it. But then, and now you're talking, and I'm going back to that moment and thinking that, there has to be a reason as to why they would do this.
It is the same reason. It is I said it's the fluid of life, and it's what is contained within the fluid of life. There's certain A-list actors who are members of Scientology, which is a sort of a religion. Who Tom Cruise, one of them, who basically who eats the placentas of his child, etc. Because it's the same thing. It's the energy. It is the component parts that are contained within this menstrual blood, the sacred blood of the mother from the holy gate, and that is what they're doing. That they are drinking the holy blood because it contains certain energies, and that's what they're doing.
Now, would it be when Christ talked about, or in the Bible when they talked about Christ turned water into wine, are they talking about exactly the same thing here, or is that something completely different?
When you look at wine, it obviously comes from a vineyard, Now, a vineyard in Gnostic circles represents a higher consciousness because it brings into alchemy as well. Where at a certain point in a vineyard, there will be a fermentation. Now, that fermentation is likened to a higher knowledge. So the whole idea of vineyards and wine is talking about a higher consciousness from the water, which is really an unconscious basis. So when you turn water into wine, you are going from unconscious to conscious, and that is really the symbolic meaning of that particular story.
Okay. I get it now. That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now we're finished with those two questions.
That's 40 questions.
Yeah, we're done with those two questions. Can move forward on this a little bit here. But before I do that, let me address a question coming in from the crowd. There's actually a couple of them, but HSB, I'm not going to address this question here because the last time I did talk about that here on the channel, I got blocked for a week and they gave me a strike. So I think I'm going to just stay away from that question. But let's address this question to Mike. HSB asks Mike, is there any significance to growing out your hair? I remember in high school, they taught that they made the Aboriginals cut off their hair when joining the military, and then they forgot how to track afterwards.
But basically, the hair is areas of connection between the body and the ether, the cosmos. Mm-hmm. So if you imagine that all of our hairs, not necessarily me because I shaved mine off intentionally, but when you get hair, it's basically antennas, millions of antennas. So when you chop off the hair or you shave the hair off, you are disconnecting those antennas from the cosmic connection, and that is really, why the Indians scalp people and different things. So the hairs are millions of little antennas that are the connection between the body and the cosmos. So it has significance when they are removed.
Now, is this, I'm going to bring up an image here. I'm sure you're familiar with the movie Avatar.
Yes.
Right. And then in Avatar, here, let me just bring that up real quick right here. In Avatar, they show the main character, his hair, right? And then he's able to take his hair and connect it to an animal or connect it to a tree or something like that, right? He can make that connection with the planet. Now, the question that HSB asked and then what you answered, is this something that the movie is trying to tell us, that that we have this connection to the ether with our hair?
Yes, and what the movie is also telling us is that nothing is disconnected. Everything is connected to the same thing. So when, for argument's sake, if you are the creator, then everything is within the same awareness. So everything is connected. If I make a statement of, I just saw that mountain, then what I am saying is that I and the mountain are in the same awareness. So therefore we are connected. We are not disconnected. So nothing is ever disconnected from anything else. You are me and I am you. I am every single one of the audience. The audience is me. Everything is a reflection of everything else, and everything is connected to everything else, the seen and the unseen. So yes, in addition to that telling us that we have a connection and our hair are the antennas of connection, the movie is also telling us quite rightly that we are all connected. They're all connected to the wisdom tree, or I can't remember the name of the tree now, but it's all connected to the tree, which is the mother of that planet, and nothing is ever disconnected. So it has multiple levels, but that is just one of them. In what is telling us in that movie.
Just bringing up what the tree name was called in Avatar, Home Tree. What's it called?
Yeah,
the tree, the Tree of Souls, Navi. I believe it was called. Navi is a giant willow. Okay, maybe not. Okay.
Our something like that. It was the name of the tree, but in essence, everything is connected to that one consciousness, really.
Yeah, and again, we go back to that one, right? As everything else, that everything is one, that we're all one. We're an expression of that one particular source. So it's a wonderful message in that movie. It's been a while since I watched it, but it kind of reminded me of that when HSB asked that question. Okay, let's move forward a little bit. We might have to do a round two on this. I thought that we'd be able to cruise through this, but there's a lot more in this book than what it appears. It's not that thick, but man, is it ever loaded with information. And in order for us to get to the pyramids, right, the secret of the pyramids and what the pyramids do, that we first have to follow through, like what Mike is talking about with our avatar and what's within our avatar and how that is connected to the pyramids and the knowledge of the pyramids. Now, in your book on page 70, The Secret of the Pyramids, A Message for Humanity, um, we talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, the location of the place. Now, a lot of people are under the assumption that Sodom and Gomorrah were physical cities and that there was wickedness happening in these cities and God struck them down and destroyed the city. There's some that say that there was a volcano that destroyed the city, and then there's others who say that Sodom and Gomorrah may be connected to Mohenjo-daro, where there was a nuclear explosion at Mohenjo-daro in Pakistan, and then and then people are saying that Sodom and Gomorrah, that possibly the same thing happened there, where they were nuked, and then it destroyed their city. But here in The Secrets of the Pyramids, I'll just quickly read a couple of paragraphs, and maybe you can give us a download on this as well, Mike. So it says the body. So this is on page 70, guys, on The Secrets of the Pyramids. So it says the body has an energy system called chakras, wheel in Sanskrit, and that is believed to be the spiritual power of human body at the base of our spine, Jacob's ladder. We have a serpent energy called the Kundalini. Again, in Sanskrit, this means the coiled one. The Kundalini is the energy of the a fire that climbs Jacob's ladder, activating each of our energy centers, chakras, energy seat. So it's way up to the top, as we were talking about, from the root to the chakra. Or sorry, from the root to the crown chakra. As it is activated and ascends upwards, it destroys the lower chakras with this fire. The two lower chakras are also known as Sodom and Gomorrah, based in the kingdom of earth and lower body, as it approaches the kingdom of heaven. Heaven meaning to heave up or to rise. Heaven is referring to the upper body where the higher level chakras are situated. The lower earth chakras are the lower body, lower density chakras, and the cause of low vibrational desires such as sexual appetite, etc. This is the destruction spoken about in the Bible, the fabled land of Sodom and Gomorrah, destroyed by fire due to the fornication and seedy lifestyle of its inhabitants. I always like that, the seedy lifestyle. Our own lower desire, Sodom and Gomorrah, is our own lowly place, keeping us in the kingdom of earth. Now, just in those three paragraphs, there's like 40 questions in within those. Number one, and I know you've spoken about this on our channel before, like the Jacob's Ladder, for instance. But I don't know if people in the crowd have heard that before. I don't know if they've seen your entire playlist, which you guys can go under the playlist, and we have an entire section. I think there's like 14 or 15 videos of Michael, giving us downloads on just particular presentations, one-on-one interviews like this. So check that out. He talks about a lot on that. So in this, Mike, let's talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, the Jacob's Ladder, and the Kundalini. Now, now this is a surprise to a lot of people, right? Because a lot of people think that Sodom and Gomorrah were actual cities, but in fact, you're talking about the lower chakras and the upper chakras. So please give us an explanation on that.
Okay, well, the soul is fragmented within us, which are the energy wheels, which are the chakras, and there are more than 7. But historically, most people deal with the major 7 ones, which go from the root all the way through to the crown chakra, the 7. Now, 7th heaven. So when you get to the top, you are in heaven. You are in a higher state, etc. When you're at the bottom, you are in the kingdom of earth. So you have the kingdom of earth, the kingdom of heaven within you. Now, when you when you have the kingdom of heaven, you have the root chakra, which is the lowest chakra, which in the Kabbalah system, that represents Egypt. That is the captivity that the Israelites were stuck in. So it's basically a lower consciousness, lower earthly desire. This relates to satanic consciousness, which also keeps you in a lower sexual lust, passion, desire. Now, when we act in such ways, the Kundalini energy, when it rises, once it's started, once it's activated, once you wake the sleeping dragon, it is going to rise. And it rises, it is a chemical fire. And I have personally seen Kundalini energy. It was the shape of a serpent, pure white. It had no face, but I saw it scurrying. I have seen Kundalini energy. It is a white chemical fire, not a fire that you would associate with a match or a cigarette lighter. It is a chemical fire. Now, when this chemical fire rises up the spine, the jet pillar of Osiris, which is the highway to enlightenment, which is your spine, and I'll come back to Jacob's ladder in a moment and the 33 vertebrae and Atlantis and all that kind of thing. But when this serpent energy rises, the Kundalini energy, it destroys the lower chakras by fire. Basically, it goes up and it combusts them, and that is really the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where this Kundalini serpent energy, and the serpent is very, very significant throughout the world in ancient times for wisdom, for copulation, for phallic symbols, for all different things. But when it rises, it is the fire that destroys the lower chakras, the Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's what the Bible was really talking about. Now, when you look at the Bible, the 33rd mention of Jacob mentions Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder is the human spine, which has 33 vertebrae. Now, the top vertebrae, the 33rd vertebrae, is medically known as Atlas. Now, Atlantis means the island of Atlas. So when you get to the top of the spine, you are in the region of Golgotha, the place of skulls. Now, within the skull, you get the light to become enlightened. So that is your Atlantis. So when you get the island of Atlantis, you are talking about the pineal gland, the seat of consciousness. So the Jacob's ladder, the 33 vertebrae of the spine, the jet pillar of Osiris, is the highway of enlightenment, where this Kundalini fire energy serpent rises and it wraps itself around the spine as it goes to the higher chakras and activates each part of that soul as it sort of heaves up to heaven. So really, when you look at Jacob's ladder, it is the spine, it is the highway of enlightenment, it is what holds Atlantis. When you see Atlas holding up the globe, that is really 33rd vertebrae holding up the mind, the Golgotha, the place of enlightenment. So the spine has significance in many of these ancient cultures, in many religions, and as I say, it heralds the news basically from the nerve endings from all over the body. And of course, the 33 degrees of masonry correlates to the 33 vertebrae or the 33 steps. The Jacob's ladder, 33 steps to heaven, which is the mind. It all correlates to this. And of course, the spine is important because of the neural networks which herald the news. And that is really what it's talking about. It's talking about the chakra system. It's talking about enlightenment. It's telling us how to do that. It's telling us how to activate that. If people were to read the Bible at its true depth, it is a book of ascension. But people don't read it at its true depth. They read it at its most shallow parts. And at its most shallow parts, it is largely children's stories. But that is what people believe in.
Sorry, just bringing up an image here so people can visually see when you're talking about the chakras and the spine. And is this what you're talking about, Mike?
Absolutely. So each of the chakras are basically positioned going up the spine, and there are 7 major ones. And the root would be the clip off, which is the captivity right at the bottom. The crown chakra right at the top is the promised land of the land promised, which is the state of enlightenment. And the bottom half of that is the kingdom of earth. The top half of that is the kingdom of heaven. So you have heaven and earth within you, which is the lower self, the higher self within. And when this serpent energy rises, it goes up the spine and it activates these energy wheels until you get to the seat of enlightenment. And that is what it's really talking about.
Now, when it was talking about your lower chakras, and how did it go? I kind of forgot my question that I was going to ask. You were talking about like sexual energy. Does do the lower chakras, are they affected somehow by, let's say, a sex addiction, or a habitual masturbator, or anything like that? When people are engaged, does that damage the chakra system, or even the energy that's flowing from the root to the crown?
It does. When you look at, again, sexual alchemy, and you start looking at all the different hidden messages of sexual alchemy, the sexual energy is a sacred energy that is created by the union of male and female, the union of the two opposites. Where we're creating basically centrifugal force, the monad, the dot in the center of the circle. So it is a sacred thing. What they are saying by the likes of celibacy and sexual abstination is you must preserve, or you must use with the correct intent, this sacred energy of creation.
Mm-hmm.
When you use it with the correct intent, with love, with honor, with compassion, you are using this sacred energy to its most highest amplification, its best effect, its most sacred effect. Now, when you live in a world like we do, which is deliberately keeping people in a sexual passion, when you have the likes of 6 and 7 year olds dressed up like prostitutes, when you have the pop stars that are parading on the stage, it is keeping people in the satanic consciousness, which is the lower sexual desire of passion. And when you keep people in this lower desire of passion, you are keeping them within the kingdom of earth, and you are preventing. When it says in the Bible about Christ cleansing the 7 spirits, the 7 unclean spirits, what he's saying is you need to cleanse the 7 chakras. Those are the 7 spirits, and if you do that, and there's no negativity within those chakras, then this path of least resistance of this snake energy will just go unhindered straight away to the skull. When you have a negativity in these chakras, then that serpent can often descend back because it can't reach the crown chakra. Now, when you have the serpent descending, that is Satan being thrown out of heaven to earth, and is keeping people in the lower sexual desires, the lust, the passion, the irresponsible use of the sacred energy, and that's what it's saying in a nutshell.
I see. Let's talk about another important thing here that you touched on, which is the conception of the child when using these energies in a responsible way or an irresponsible way. Is there a cause and effect on the child? Let's say 2 people are in love, and they make love, and they're very passionate about it, and they have right intentions, and a child is conceived. Now, would that child have a different energy, let's say, compared to a prostitute becoming pregnant, or somebody being raped and becoming pregnant? Would those 2 individuals have stark different energies, or does that matter in any way?
It matters, and it's been proved in other guises. Let's take water, for instance. It's been proven by Dr. Emoto and different scientists that certain words make water, for instance, react differently. So if you were to say the word love, you see a beautiful, bright geometric shape. If you say the word hate, you get a really fizzled, dark, horrible, deformed geometry. So words are important. When the child is in the mother's womb, and the mother speaks, and people speak in the environment, the child is hearing those words. The child is hearing the voice. May not necessarily understand what the words are, but it can certainly understand the energy of those words. Now, if you're turning around and saying, "Oh God, I'm pregnant again. I didn't want to get pregnant. Oh no, that was a mistake," the child is hearing the vibrations of those words. If you're saying, "Great, we wanted a child, our first child. We really love this. We can't wait to have our first child," the child is hearing the vibration of those words. words are energy, and the child can pick up on that vibration. So it does have an effect. It does have an effect on the subconscious. It has an effect on the child at a very, very deep level. Most adults who have issues have those issues that stem pretty much every single time. That issue will stem from something in childhood, whether it's it's bad words, bad attitude, bad teachings, bad society. They will be affected by their early years because their brain waves are very, very open. They absorb everything, and the words we use, the attitude we have, the energy that we give towards that child, they pick up on that, and that does form them. That does give them a personality.
It that totally makes sense. I've got this image on the screen here that you were talking about. It's Dr. Masaru Emoto or Imato, I believe it is. And here's the what you were talking about when you have the water, and then when you give it the intention of love or hate or whatever, then it defines itself rather than being coagulated like the one image on the left here. So that's very cool. I didn't know that until a couple of years ago, and now I actually look at things a little bit more differently. So when you say to yourself that like a lot of people do, I'm sure they don't mean it, but the subconscious doesn't know the difference. But when people say, "Oh, I'm so stupid," or I'm so dumb," or whatever the case may be, when you make affirmations like that, is that subconsciously affecting the water in our avatar, since we're like 70% water to begin with?
Yeah, and it's exactly the meaning of the word becomes flesh, because what you say becomes your reality. Now, when the subconscious mind is really a fertile field, and when you have a fertile field, you can either plant weeds, you can plant flowers, you can plant what you want. So if you imagine the subconscious mind is this fertile field that is ready to have seeds planted in it. Now, if you go through life and you are condemning yourself, if you are sabotaging yourself, if the people who you look up to and respect, like teachers and parents, are telling you that you're dumb, you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything, you don't. There's no way you're going to be an astronaut. You're not intelligent enough. This is planting weeds into the subconscious mind of the child on their fertile field, and that is where later issues in life are stemming from. Because when you realise that the physical conscious mind is actually a guardian of the subconscious mind, so when you realise that, it's almost like bouncers on the door of a nightclub. You're not coming in. You are. You're not coming in. You are, and you start to block out some of these weeds that are being planted because you understand how the mind and the subconscious mind works. So everything we say, everything we hear, if it is unguarded, it goes into a deep place, and that can grow the weeds that will live with us throughout our life.
So be careful of what you say, guys. Is the advice here? Don't say things to yourself that are negative, right? Always say positive things to yourself, like "I'm beautiful." I love myself. Love is great. When you give yourself those types of affirmations, then you're not going to be damaging your avatar. Is what I caught from there. Here, let me quickly
Mm.
toss myself on the screen. Go ahead, Mike. What were you going to say?
Now, I was going to say that the tongue has no bones, but it can destroy. Now, you have the ability to bring through your words, your voice, the highest of knowledge, the highest of wisdom, to present that to the world. Alternatively, you can destroy people by what you say to them. Now, that goes back to the Garden of Eden, because the throat chakra, the fifth chakra, contains the Adam's apple. So
Yeah,
if you misuse the fifth chakra, you misuse the voice, misuse your words, that is the fall of man.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to mention that because I remember on our last stream you were talking about the voice as being a gift from our throat chakra, and we have to be careful as to what we say, right? I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike. Maybe for
We
those
do.
who missed the stream a couple of weeks ago, maybe you can define that a little bit, Mike.
Okay, well, of course, we as humans on this planet have the ability above the animal kingdom, which is to verbally express our thoughts, verbally express emotions, verbally express how we're feeling, and using these verbal expressions as a way of communication. So if we use that with correct intent, with conscious intent, you can uplift somebody. If you are always cursing people, if you're always bad-mouthing them, if you're always uttering behind their back, you are basically potentially destroying that person. You don't know what effect you are having on them, or the effect that the people who are listening to what you are saying is having on them at a deeper level. So you have the potential to uplift or destroy by what you say and the intent upon which you put into those words. Now, when I spoke earlier about words and letters are magical formulas, abracadabra, I create what I speak. When you say certain words in certain ways, in certain tones, in certain letter sequences, you are sometimes evoking lower astral entities who are creating them. A lot of astral entities, lower, basically energy stealing entities, are the creation of human thoughts, and they are milking that negative energy forevermore. So what you say and your thoughts are really important, because you are creating. The word becomes flesh. Your reality is created by what you are saying. So you have the ability, you have the power to uplift someone forever or destroy them. And that really is your responsibility to understand what you're doing, because that is the fifth chakra, that is the fall of man, the Adam's apple. And the Apple company symbol, the Apple logo, which has a bite out of it, is telling us about the misuse of that chakra.
I see. The apple uses that.
Yeah.
And that's also connected to Saturn, right? Because of the crescent in that.
Well, again, yeah. I mean, Saturn is an extremely vast subject, and it would take the rest of the evening to actually get anywhere near explaining Saturn. But Saturn really is the lower energies. It is the lead in alchemy that it is the base that we start from, and we ascend to the gold, the philosopher's stone. So Saturn really is the base. It is the heavy. It is the negativity. Now, when you look at the magic formulas we're talking about, and certain words and certain things, even the colours of robes of the priests evoke certain energies. So when you see, Vatican cardinals and that walking around in dark violet robes, that is the colour that evokes Saturnalian deities and beings. Now, when you see the white robes with gold, those are the colours that evoke deities of the sun. So when you look at magic circles, when you look at magic wands, which is controlling that sacred space, creating an environment that is compatible for these beings to come through into this world, which again is the pyramid, which again is Stonehenge, etc. Even the colours of the magician's robe means a lot. When a magician or anybody wears black, they are cloaking themselves from karmic fingerprints. They are hiding themselves, in other words. So even the colours of the robes are significant when you see the priests and different things. So all of these things, we don't understand numbers, we don't understand words, we don't understand how many letters to use in a correct sequence. If we use the whole of a word of a deity, we are entering into a contract with them. All of these different things we don't understand, and we don't understand what we're doing when we're speaking and when we're saying these words. So we have to be careful, and that is all part of the mastery of self. And a large part of mastery of self is the conquering of your thoughts, and that really is part of the conquest that we're here for.
What does the Pope wearing red shoes represent? Because I've seen that a lot.
Red, again, when you're looking at alchemy and think that there are three main colours of alchemy which represent the mercury, the sulfur, the salt, and it's part of alchemy. So when you get the likes of Lot's wife turning to salt, it's saying that when you go through this physical ascension, the only thing that is left of your body is salt. So Lot's wife turning to salt is telling you about alchemical ascension. So the likes of the griffin. When you see a griffin, someone said to me once, I don't understand why I've just seen a griffin on a church. So that's because you don't understand alchemy. If you understand alchemy, The griffin is the red blood of the lion and the gluten of the eagle. In other words, it's menstrual blood and it's semen, but it's also mercury and sulfur, and it is alchemical union. And when you get this alchemical union, you get the ascension, the marriage of opposites. So when we get married physically, we are entering into that dualistic, sacred opposites that are becoming one. Now, after that one, we go on a honeymoon. Now, when you look at the word honeymoon in Egyptian, it basically means heaven on earth, or earth as it is in heaven. So we have all of this correspondence with alchemy, with sexual union, with the honeymoon, which is the enlightened state after the union of opposites. So the red really is the blood. The red is the mercury and the sulfur of alchemy, and that is really what they're telling us.
Interestingly enough, when people get married in India, the bride usually wears red, and when they get married, the husband and wife, they tie a knot with their with their saris, and with the man's kameez, I believe it's called, and then they walk around the fire, right, doing circles around the fire. Is that the same ritual of like becoming one? Is what they're trying to express there?
It is, and again, when you look at the Egyptian hieroglyph tying the knot, when you have like should we say the throat that's been tied around what looks to be a set of lungs, it's really talking about tying the knot. Tying the knot is duality becoming one, so the two opposites becoming in union, and that is what it's really talking about. It is the union with God, but God, as I said, is the power within you. They're the four elements that you must control within you. That is the meaning of the tetragrammation, or the threefold key, which is God, who creates with breath, which is air. So the God is the four elements. Now, when you look at magicians and you see superhuman feats, you see people in blocks of ice, you see people putting needles through their muscles. What they're doing is they are manipulating the elements within them. So if you can remove the earth element within the body, you won't feel the needles going through your arm. If you're inside a block of ice and you utilize the element of fire, it will keep you warm in those extreme conditions, and so on and so on. They are making things disappear by hiding them in different realms and then bringing them back. And this is all magic circles, it's magic triangles. There's a world of magic out there where people are actually manipulating reality, manipulating the elements, and they've been taught how to do that. And it's not just your normal children's entertainer who has a rabbit coming out of a hat. You are talking about deep mystical Egyptian magic that has been taken by other cultures. But it's really, in essence, we are unifying the two opposites of each of us and bringing that back into androgyny, which is the union once more.
Reminds me of when you were talking about the ice cube and using the fire element to keep yourself warm. It kind of reminded me of have you ever seen the movie The Demolition Man with what's his name, Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes?
I've seen it, but I can't remember it. What I was referring to is David Blaine, who does what seems to be superhuman feats, but really, standing in block of ice and things. But yes, I mean, again, it is the same symbology. If you can utilize, when you talk about the four elements and you talk about how can you tell when they're out of balance, well, if you're thirsty, then the fire element is out of balance, and so on and so on. But you need to balance these four elements to become the union with the God within, which is the God man, which then becomes the Godhead, and that is what it's telling us to balance, control the emotions that will balance the four elements within us.
Now, you've mentioned this word a few times now, Godhead. And the first time I heard this term, Godhead, was from David Icke. Way, way, way back in the day when I forgot the show that he was on. He was wearing his purple, running.
Yeah.
running suit, and
The
when people
turquoise period,
yeah. And people were like laughing at him at that time. Now people are laughing with him, not against him. But
Mm.
during that interview, he also talked about Godhead, of how he's the son of Godhead, and he goes
Mm.
into not really that much detail on the show, but in his books that he does. Maybe you can help define the term Godhead of what he was talking about, because I'm sure there's people in our audience that are also wondering like what Godhead actually is.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the sons of God are basically the masters on earth. So that they are the sons of God. They are the messiahs. They are the torchbearers who, the flame, the Olympic torch is the torchbearers, the knowledge bearers of earth. Now, when you look at the
Is that
Godhead, he's really,
sorry to interrupt, but is that connected to the Olympic torch as well?
yes, yes.
Okay.
The flame within the Olympic torch is really symbolic. I mean, it's symbolic of Lucifer, but it's also symbolic of the flame bearers, the enlightenment bearers of earth. In other words, the initiates, those, the elites who are in this knowledge. When you go back to ancient Egypt, they had the phrase the Godhead. So it is for those who've seen other presentations I've done, I've dated the Great Pyramid as just under 74,000 years of age based on star charts. And this kind of terminology has been used since then. So it's not a new terminology. When you talk about the Godhead, you are talking about divinity, you are talking about the divine state of mind. So when you reach the master level, when you are at a level that you understand the principles of what I'm saying now, you are going into what is known the Godhead, which is the divine state. Now, the divine state speaks for itself, and those who are reaching that divine state, they are making these connections with higher parts of themselves, with higher aspects, higher vibrations, and higher deities of the universe. So the Godhead, in a very, very short answer, is the divine state of mind, and that is what all of this is really leading to.
I see. I get it now. Here, I'm just guys, I'm going to post the link to the playlist for Michael Feeley. He just mentioned some of his work. And if you guys are interested, you can check out that playlist. There's a lot of content on there. You can actually see the playlist here on Watchers Talk, or you can see it on Michael Feeley's YouTube channel as well. There's a lot of information in there that we're talking about here today. Mike has talked about this in previous presentations that he's done, and he's gone into detail of that. These presentations are like 2.5, 3 hours, 3.5 hours long. So there's a ton of information in there. So now let's move forward with the secrets of the pyramids. I'm just kind of cherry picking here, Mike, and just finding the important things that people need to know, and some of the things that they do on a daily basis. So I thought that this segment of the book would be a great download for people, because it's on page 82, and it's a chapter, the Lord's Prayer, the real meaning. Now, a lot of people, when they go to sleep at night, they get on their knees on their bed and they pray to God. They get their children there as well, and they pray to God. So here, I'll do the traditional version, and then you can tell us the interpretation of this prayer. It's written here, but I would rather hear it from you than to read it. I've read it a few times already. So our Lord's Prayer goes, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, the kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. From thine in the kingdom, the power of the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Well, in essence, it's talking about the higher consciousness again. So, our Father who art in heaven is basically been translated as the knowledge of the mind. Hallowed be thy name. the sanctity of breath, the sanctity of your name. Give us this day, which in Hebrew is Yom, which is a period of light. So, in other words, give us enlightenment, not darkness, which is ignorance. Now, when you start going into Amen, it is breath. When you start going into Lord, Lord means breath. In Egypt, it is Neb, which means breath. Then you talk about the bread of life. What is the connection between the bread of life and the breath of life? When you look at bread, and when you look at the yeast of bread, which takes in oxygen, it mimics the respiratory system of the body. So you have basically the bread of life, the breath of life. As I said before, life is dependent upon the breath, dependent upon the oxygen. The whole of the Lord's Prayer is talking about a higher state of consciousness, and give us this day, give us the enlightenment. Don't give us the dark, don't give us the darkness. And Amen, Amen Ra, who is the God of breath. This goes into many different things. Breath, the control of the breath is also a consciousness mechanism. When you look at a church spire, the word spire means breath. When you look at the word expire, it means to stop breathing. When you look at the word inspire, it means to breathe. When you look at the word conspire, as in conspiracy, it means to breathe together. So there's nothing offensive about being spoken to as a conspiracy theorist, because that just means that you are breathing as one, you are breathing in harmony. So in essence, the Lord's Prayer is telling us, or pleading for enlightenment and a higher state of mind, not a period of darkness, which is ignorance. Forgive those who trespass against us. He's talking about the same kind of thing, and it's telling us basically, deliver us from evil, deliver us from devolution. So good and evil. Good is evolution, which is to raise yourself. Evil is devolution, which is to sink to the depth of earth, to the lower part of self. So it's asking to be delivered, to be removed from the lower part of self, and to be risen to the higher part of self. And in essence, that's what he's talking about. It is saying that our Father who art in heaven, the knowledge of our mind, heaven, give us this period of life, give us this enlightenment, so that we may never evolve, that we would always evolve. And that in essence is what it's asking for.
Would this also be connected to breaking the life birth cycle that we're involved in this incarnation, so that if we deliver ourselves in this lifetime, that we can possibly break this cycle that we're caught up in?
It is again, when you look at the Egyptian ethos, when they talk about the afterlife and different things, I think the afterlife is here on earth. I think hell is here on earth. When you look at how the Quran defines hell, it is where the population don't understand when it's given information. In other words, so that would really define earth, where we have the humanity that's just not getting what's quite obviously in front of them. So that is hell. Now, when you pass from this physicality, or so-called physicality, your soul, your spirit, goes into what is known as a density degree. So in other words, it goes to a compatible vibration, a compatible frequency. So your time on earth is your opportunity for spiritual maturity. With spiritual maturity comes a higher vibration. So when you pass from this physical realm and you go into the astral plane, you can only go to a place that you are spiritually mature to be compatible with. So if you are forever never getting it, if you are forever not ignoring the truth and just going ahead with the third dimensional nonsense, your vibration will be compatible with Earth, and you will keep coming back here. And really, the idea of raising yourself, causing yourself to be enlightened, to initiate your soul to an enlightened state, is to change your vibration and your spiritual maturity, so that you escape the birth and death cycle of this planet, of this hell, this circle of torment. So yes, when you increase your vibrations, and you do that by certain things here on Earth, you are not coming back if you have reached a higher level of octave vibration.
I see. Okay. I get it. Coolies, let's take a quick minute here, guys. If you have any questions for Michael Feeley, please feel free to put them into the comments of this chat. And if you're interested in coming on and asking Michael a question directly, I've just posted the link to our studio. You're more than welcome to come in and ask Mike any questions that you may have. Let's take a quick commercial break here, just for a second. Tomorrow, we have our Portal to Ascension conference happening. It's a four-day summit featuring 44 speakers. It's some of the top names in the world. This is a free or by donation event happening on Zoom and also on Portal to Ascension. So check that out tomorrow. And on October the 3rd, I will be doing a presentation I believe on October 3rd, I'll be doing a presentation and as well interviewing a number of different speakers and also introducing a number of speakers. So if you guys are interested, the link to the conference is right here. Let me just quickly just fix that for you guys so it's not on scroll. It is portaltoascension.org. Head on over there, register. Like I said, it's all free. And 4 days, 44 speakers. So it should be a very good weekend. So please check that out. This is my good friend Neil Gore from Portal to Ascension. I'm sure you guys know who Neil Gore is from Portal to Ascension. All right. So with that being said, let me jump into the meat of our talks here now. Let me toss myself up here on the cam here, being camera shy here. Going to look into the secrets of the pyramids and the anatomy of the brain. Now, this is my one of my favorite chapters in this book because it really goes into detail. A lot of the things that Mike is saying here on page 99, we've already covered in numerous different questions that we've already asked. So the relationship between the brain and the Great Pyramid on page 100, the chapter is The Secrets of the Pyramids. Now, I'll just read a couple of paragraphs and then we'll let Mike really explain what he's talking about. So here, I'll share the image with you guys. Here, let me toss myself up on the full screen so that I can show you guys this the image.
There's the tile of the knot that I was talking about, just at the on the right, bottom right.
Yeah, right. Oh, right there.
Yeah, the tile of the knot we were talking about 5 minutes ago.
So we got that. I really like this. This is super cool. I like having conversations like these. Let's see. Let's go to the second paragraph. Well, let's see how long that one is. Okay, actually, I'll just jump over here. It says, but for those who had, and this is on page 99, guys, on chapter 9, 999. See, check that out. Did you do that purposely?
No, a lot of the things that were not deliberate, but it just happened that way. Like, page 100 relates to the children of the higher city, which is Jerusalem, which again is the higher mind.
Yeah.
Page 100 that you just mentioned with the head in the pyramid, which is a complete coincidence, but
Yeah,
not,
that's
maybe.
pretty cool, brother.
Yeah.
So it goes, but for those who had the knowledge, the walking sun gods, the pharaohs, and the priests who went hand in hand, life must have been great. They believed themselves to be physical incarnations of the solar deities, such as Akhenaten, which means the living spirit of Aten, which is forever evidenced in their hieroglyphs and other symbolic and allegoric writings. Knowledge was a privilege and not a right. It had to be earned through worthiness and was not passed on lightly. Initiations were tough. Many failed, only the strong succeeded. The temple were the locations of the greatness, the mind, the house of the god, like state temples means God house. They knew and understood the workings of our most inner self, and they practiced wholeness and divinity, reaching the dizzy heights of enlightenment. They knew how to find the exact knowledge and wisdom from their own DNA, RNA that we can only do now by way of sophisticated and advanced technical scientific equipment that we are told is a product of the 21st century. And how did they do this? They must have had access to the same level of equipment that we do today. They also had knowledge of the three wise men that from part of the human endorphin system secretion within, and they understood, unlike the new age, that in order to reach wholeness and divinity, the two hands, the opposing sides, namely duality, which is the effect of trinity, must be merged into one. The merging of the two hands, the sema tawi cemetery, so called, as it is a bridge between life and physical death. They tied the knots as we do during marriage ceremonies today. The chemical marriage of king and queen, which leads on to the king and queen's chamber of the Great Pyramid. Later, there were three main pyramids at Giza: the Great Pyramid, which is Khufu's pyramid. Khufu's name, Khufu means the name of the pharaoh, and numerology. His name has, and here we go. We were talking about this earlier. An expression core number 22, which is number I continue to frequently see. Khafre's pyramid. Khafre is a variant of Khufu, and Mankuru's pyramid. Mankuru means divine. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Mike?
It is talking about the seat of enlightenment, which is the mind, and it's talking about what I've done is I put a human head over the Great Pyramid, and when I did so, it quite clearly marked what is known as the endocrine system, which is the likes of the thalamus, the pituitary gland, the pineal gland in the Queen's chamber, the King's chamber, and the little tower-looking thing, the Bella, the Bethlehem, inside the Great Pyramid. So it's really talking about seated enlightenment, the secretion within the yellow and white secretion, which is the land of milk and honey. And the whole of the pyramid system is talking about consciousness, enlightenment. Now, when you look at the biblical Ark of the Covenant, the biblical measurements of the Ark of the Covenant match exactly the diameter, the volumes of the sarcophagus. So, in other words, the sarcophagus within the Great Pyramid within the King's chamber, which represents the pineal gland, is the Ark of the Covenant. So, that's what the Ark of the Covenant is. It is the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid. So, everything that the Egyptians were talking about was talking about the enlightened state of the Godhead, the divine mind. And they wanted this divine mind because they knew that it was going to take them to higher places, whether in this life or the next. And that is what they were doing. They were using this as a spiritual maturity to get to where they wanted in the so-called afterlife. And everything in the Egyptian culture corresponds to that enlightenment. The gigantic boat inside the Great Pyramid has references to what the Greeks later said was Charon on the river Styx. In other words, it is taking the enlightened souls across the river of the sky, the duet, to where they should be. So everything in religious in the Egyptian culture was about enlightenment, about the self, about know thyself. To understand the mysteries, you have to understand yourself, because you are the mystery. You are the miniature version of the mystery that you're looking into. So the answer to the mystery is also in the mystery, and that is man. That is the pentagram. Now, when you look at Egyptian mummies, and they're always in the X shape, that is the pentagram. That is telling you that they are the completed man within the whole of creation, and that is what they're telling us. And that's what they were striving for. They were striving for the Godhead, the divine mind, and the divine state. And everything in relation to their monoliths and their monuments all indicated the same thing in a secret place.
Sorry, Mike, I was just taking a shot here just to show people. On the following page, right after this page here, you have the Eye of Horus. I guess I'll bring myself on the screen here. I just want to show. You have the Eye of Horus, right, in this image. But before I get to that, I'll actually put that image onto the screen here in just a minute. But I just wanted to talk about the king's chamber and the queen's chamber, like we see in the diagram here that you have in your book. Now, exactly where in our brain would be the king's chamber, and where would be the queen's chamber? And then also, like, when we talk about the shafts of the pyramids, because there's four of them, right? There's, two here, and then there's two um you know down below, and then there's two up top, and it's supposed to be, that's where the pharaoh's soul takes off and flies off like a phoenix, I believe. It is, exactly where in the brain is that located, and what is the function of the king's chamber and the queen's chamber within our brains?
Within our brain, it is the pituitary and the pineal gland. So where you see on that map overlay where I've marked the king's chamber and the queen's chamber is where you would find the pituitary gland and the pineal gland. Now that is really two of the three seats of consciousness. You can also see in there a little tower, which is depicted in Japan and China as the Shinto Temple. Shinto means pathway to the gods. So you're looking at the jet pillar of Osiris, but also what is known as the Belen, which gives you the word Bethlehem. So within the pyramid as well. I mean, my knowledge of this now has grown since writing this book, which was many years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
when you have the likes of the Christ angle, which is an angle within the Great Pyramid, it goes straight the way through Bethlehem from the northeast direction of the Great Pyramid. Now, when you put that into the sky, it takes you to Regulus, which gives you regal, which gives you king. So it is the coming of the king, which is again astronomy. So that is talking about the pituitary and the pineal gland, which are two seats of your consciousness, the seat of enlightenment. And that is what they are telling us in the plan of the Great Pyramid. Of course, harmonically as well, the harmonics within that are also related to consciousness as well. Now, here you can see on the screen the Eye of Horus, which is, yes, the pineal gland, and the brain stem is actually the shape of a falcon, and that is why you have the falcon-headed god Horus, because he represents that as well. But where you see the Eye of Horus, it is said in Egyptian myth that the Eye of Horus was split into 6 parts. So when you look at the Eye of Horus, you see the eyebrow, which is relates to knowledge, and then within the eye itself, you have the 5 senses, the 5 wounds of Christ, which are basically what is keeping us, the 5 senses keeping us locked in this reality. So where you see the pupil, for argument's sake, it is sight. The part of the eye that is closest to the nose is smell. The part of the eye that is closest to the ear is hearing. When you have the tongue, that is taste. And when you have the teardrop hitting the ground, that is touch. So the Eye of Horus is talking about the 5 senses. And how do we escape the 5 senses? By the infinite expanse of knowledge, which is represented by the pupil, the black hole. And that is also the Eye of Horus, which is telling us how to escape the trap, the cycle of torment of this reality. It's getting us beyond the 5 senses. So it's all talking about the mechanisms of the brain. It's all talking about the seat of enlightenment. It's telling us how to escape this third-dimensional ignorance.
Now, there's the next image that I want to show here and talk about, Mike, is the pineal gland and the brain and the Eye of Horus. Let me just bring it up. This is, I believe, is what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Just let me just download this picture and toss it up here really quickly so that people can see what I'm talking about. Now, I was wondering if this upcoming picture that I'm going to show is also connected to the bag that that is seen with the Anunnaki. Um, here, I'll toss this up, and then we'll jump over here. Um, page 104 is this image right here, Mike. Um, It says, page 104, The Secrets of the Pyramids, Message for Humanity. It says, we can also trace fertility cults back to the worship of the Egyptian goddess Isis. Isis was associated with the star Sirius A, but her cosmic appearance in the sky was the moon in ancient Egypt. They had talisman amulet called the Tayet, which was a simpler shape of the famous Ankh, right? Is what we are looking at here. And then now, when I see the ink like that, right, like this particular image, it also reminds me of the bag that the Anunnaki are carrying. What's the significance of this?
The significance of that is red. That represents the menstrual blood. The Sphinx is the face of Isis, the mother, because the lioness represents the moon, and the moon, of course, is the planet of fertility that locks into menstrual cycles. So that is the Tayet, which is monster blood, which is related to the goddess of fertility, that is Isis. Now, when you look at the famous handbags around the world, the Anunnaki, there's also in Goblet Lataki as well, and other ancient worlds, they carry this mysterious handbag, and it is also the same shape that has been adopted by the Royal Ark of Freemasonry. So what it really represents is the arch is the arch of heaven, and it represents half of the zodiac, which is the apex is Cancer, which is where life comes in, and Capricorn is where life leaves, which is the bottom half that you don't see. So the archways, like when you get to football stadiums like Wembley Stadium, you have the arch. The arch represents 6 signs of the zodiac, which is the ascent. So again, what they're telling you is the ascent of knowledge is what the famous handbags are really telling you about. It is the ascent of life, it's the ascent of knowledge that transcends physical life. So in a roundabout way, it's talking about life, of course, the womb, the menstrual blood, the fertility is what gives us the life on earth. But you also have the Capricorn and half of the heavens, the ascent, the dome of heaven, which is the Capricorn where life enters. So it is connected in a certain way, but the handbag relates more to the dome, to the heavens, or 6 half of the zodiac, shall we say.
I see. I see. I thought for the longest time that it was technology that they were carrying around, right? Showing that like some kind of an energy arc or something like that, right? Which you know I heard around the internet, and I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. It could possibly be if these are advanced beings coming. But then after having read your books, like for instance this one right here, right? It really is the eye-opening stuff. I gotta say, for sure. What's the meaning of this picture? This is Akhenaten or Tutankhamun's uh, death mask that he's wearing. Now, there's a story that goes along with this. If you guys are interested, there's a short video. It's a short, but probably about 3 minutes on my channel. If you go into the archives, you'll find Tutankhamun's death mask. And what I discovered with this death mask is then maybe you can enlighten me on this one as well, Mike. That Tutankhamun, he died too early, and that this mask was intended for a woman, and then they riveted together, and then hastily put this together, and then gave it to Tutankhamun, and then even in his in his tomb that he's at, his sarcophagus was even too big to go into his tomb, so they had to knock out a chunk of the wall in order for them to get him in. And then I wonder if there's any significance to this as well, because when you look at Tutankhamun inside his tomb, his toes have been cut off. Is that significance of some sort? Are they trying to tell us something, that maybe he wasn't good on his feet?
I've been fortunate enough to actually see this reel in the Cairo Museum. Now, there's so many symbolic meanings of the mask, but it all relates to the one thing, which again is enlightenment. So you have the gold, which is the skin of the gods, which is enlightenment. You have the black eyeliner, which represents Osiris, the pineal gland. You have the serpents that meet on the third eye, which is really the Ida and Pingala energy centers when they meet at the third eye. There's a consciousness explosion. You have the chin, which is really the vermis, which is the tail of the serpent. You have all of these different. The Cobra Hood is the Robin Hood, the Bright Hood, which again relates to enlightenment of the mind. So, in essence, there's multiple things happening in this one thing that relates to enlightenment. And Tutankhamun died aged 19, I believe, as the saying goes. But the Egyptians, everything was all about about the pentagram, the completed man. Everything was about preparing yourself, or in this life, to gain the spiritual maturity for the afterlife. And everything that they did, everything in their symbology, everything in their hieroglyphs, which is really a symbolic, sacred knowledge that goes into the soul level when you touch, and it sort of absorbs at your level when you look at them. So everything about Egypt, everything about Tutankhamun, everything about all of these gods it's enlightenment. And going back to Enki and Enlil of the Sumerian story, they too relate to the four elements, which is what I spoke about at the beginning about mastering the four elements within genetics, within the body, within Jerusalem, within the temple of God, which is you. It's all about the same thing. And on talks like this, it can seem like I'm throwing lots and lots of information. But in essence, there's only really one thing that you need to remember and one thing you need to take from this, and that is enlightenment and self. And really, if everything that's been said this evening talks about those things, the self. Self as EL, as God within, the God is within self. That is what everything that I've spoken about tonight, everything I've spoken about in previous 3-hour talks has always been about those one things, that one thing. And every single culture is saying the exact same thing in a different way. And that really is what it is all about. It is about the self. It is about the ascension of self and how you master the elements within to create the Godhead within yourself.
Nice. This is good stuff, Mike. I'm really enjoying this. Thank you for your time today and helping me to further understand this book. And I'm sure people out in the audience are the same way. Let's quickly check our comments here and see what we can come up with here before I move on to my final question. Doc Duchess Carla says, where'd it go? It just disappeared. Right here. She's like, I love seeing the pictures. Thank you. You're very welcome. What does menorah represent?
The Jewish candle is again, in astronomy, it's the 7 planets. In bodily terms, it's the 7 chakras. So the menorah, the 7 candle heads of Judaism, Hebrew, it relates to those things. Seventh heaven, the chakras, the 7 visible planets.
God doesn't die or shart himself, returning Babylon, one world religion to Lucifer. Yeah.
Well, there's 3 Babylons. There's obviously the original Babylon. There's the Church of Rome, which is Babylon 2, and there is saying that Russia is Babylon 3. So the whole of Babylon is really the Roman Church, and we are going to this kind of system of Lucifer is not Satan. Satan is not Lucifer. That is a misconception.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucifer is a light bearer, but it's almost a false light. So when you see the petrol stations such as the Shell garage, the Shell relates to Venus, and the light around the Shell is the false light of Lucifer. So Lucifer, Mother Mary, is the higher octave of Saturn. So Lucifer is not Satan, but they are basically in conjunction.
Where does London come into this? I heard David Icke say it a few times that London is Babylon, right? That is connected to Babylon.
It is, when you look at the MI6 building, it is the ziggurat, it's the Babylon on the Thames. When you look at the mayor's office it was built to replicate the Tower of Babylon. So London is again is a power point. It's a power center. When you get the city of London, it has all dragon symbols and different things. So it is a power center that relates to Babylon, which of course relates to the Church of Rome, which of course relates to Babylon. So all of these power centers are significant parts of the grand plan.
Now, London happens to be one of the city states within a sovereign state, I should say, within the country in itself. There's three of them, right? There's the Vatican City, which is the spiritual head of the organization, and then it's London, which in itself is a sovereign state within a state, which would be the financial hub of the system. And then we have Washington D.C., the District of Columbia, which in itself is again a sovereign state within a state, and that would be the military. Um, hand of this entire cabal, I guess, that we're dealing with.
It wouldn't again cabal is Kabbalah, and when you look at London as the financial centre, we on Earth we operate under maritime law, the law of commerce, which takes in the sea, which takes in the land. Now, who runs the law of commerce? The Vatican, the Church of Rome. So again, we have a London, Babylon, Vatican kind of connection, and again, it's a deep subject in relation to the SSV Trust and the Free Crowns of Rome, and how they, by birth certificates, how they deny people of the right to land and anything upon birth. It is a real system that there's never challenged. So they come along and say, this is how it is, and no one ever challenges it, and that's how it's been ever since. And even in modern day courts, in modern day law, it relates back to this maritime law, this law of commerce of the Church of Rome. But again, that is an exceptionally lengthy, deep subject.
Yeah, it is extremely. I thought I would just toss that in there. It really has nothing to do with our talk today, but I thought I'd toss that in there since that question popped up. And interestingly enough, all three cities have obelisks, which end in pyramids. And in your book, you show a number of diagrams. Like I believe it was the Chrysler building that has the pyramid shape on top. Here, let me see if I can pull that up. This is a very interesting book, guys. Definitely have to get it. Sorry, Mike, go ahead, brother.
I was going to say, in Masonry, the obelisk is important in several ways, because they believe that the original Mason, Hiram Abiff, is the incarnation of Osiris. And of course, the obelisk is the symbol of Osiris, the palace of Osiris. It's also a star marker to the solar trinity, which is in the sky around the Pleiades. And you have three obelisks in the Vatican City that align exactly to the solar trinity around the Pleiades. The Sidonian city on Mars is mapped out exactly as the Pleiades. You have all of this correspondence to the stars, but there are star markers, which are obelisks marking certain parts of the sky.
In your book here on page 53, you show a diagram as well. Let me just make this into a full screen. Right, and there it is, right there. You show a diagram. I guess the kind of the same thing. What
Yeah.
showed in that one image of London, Vatican, and Washington, D.C.
Well, of course, Columbia is ISIS. So, you have that. And the Washington, D.C. obelisk was raised when Sirius was going above head. So it relates to Egypt as well, in relation to all of these things that we're doing.
Yeah, and then on the other page, you have the mini logo, which I just showed.
Yeah.
On that page right there, guys. And then Michael is talking about the Oval Office at the presidential White House. Oval is the shape of the pituitary gland associated with motherhood, Isis. And this is something that was new that I learned, Mike, about Isis and the dollar sign. right? For me, that was pretty cool. Looked at that image for quite a while, and then I went on to go and see if I can find that on the internet. Like right here, you're also showing this is the pyramid on top of the Canary Wharf, the business center in London's East End, and then the Big Ben, London, right? The American dollar bill with the pyramid, which is also right there. Hey, let me make the screen.
Going back to the dollar sign, you have the eye, which is the spine, and if you put the two S's on the spine, you get ISIS, the ISS, which is ISIS. But it's also the two serpents on the spine, but those two serpents also give you the number 8. So the number 8 again is the baptismal font, which is the octagram, which is 8 sides, which is the star of Venus, which again Lucifer, Queen of Heaven, Mother Mary, Isis. So it even goes into the church from the dollar sign to the two serpents going up the spine.
That is amazing. It really is. It's I found that was one of my. It was one of those aha moments, right? When I saw that. Let's jump over here to this one here, Mike, which is, let me just bring it up. I have the image right here. Where did you go? There you are. Right here, the A. In this is on page 123. The mystery now resolved, or the mystery now revealed, the secrets of the Great Pyramids, the anatomy of the brain. It goes going back to the Verdes, A, the Hebrew language. The word alpha, as in the first letter of the alphabet, means father or the head of royalty, king. Alifa has the gematria of one, in other words, at one with God as the material realm. The four sides of the pyramids turn into a connection with the ether, the fifth element of the capstone, where we go from man to godlike. The significance of the head of royalty is contained in the earlier passage regarding the word pharaoh, meaning great house, which in other words is the great mind. Can you explain that instead of me having to read this entire chapter?
No, of course. Again, it all goes to the great mind, the great house, God's house, the temple of God. The mind is the Golgotha, it is the place of skulls, it is the walls of Jericho. And when we receive the light in our skull to become enlightened, we receive the knowledge to become enlightened in our mind, in our brain, in our consciousness. So it relates to the head, it relates to the Golgotha, the place of skulls, where we become enlightened, where the knowledge sits. So again, it goes back to the same subject about the pyramid representing many things. When you have the apex of the pyramid, it is the head. When you have the four sides, it's the two arms, the two legs. So it is man on earth that needs to return as children of the higher city to Jerusalem, which is a higher mind, a higher body. And that is what it, again, in a very, very succinct way, it is telling us. The letter A is important because I said it gives us the colour of the sky. And a lot of Egyptian gods are blue. So again, we have this octave A, we have the letter A, Aleph, God, the ox is blood, Adam, blood of the ox, Taurus. Taurus is taught, and it is all knowledge, it is all wisdom, it is all about the mind, it is all about the great mind, the Pharaoh, the sons of God, who were the messiahs, those who bring in enlightenment and keeping the earth, those who are the flame bearers of the planet. And that is how they see themselves. They are the walking gods, and again, they are the masters of the elements. They are the masters of the earth. They are the walking lions. And when you see all the pictures of lion men walking around, they are the masters of the earth, and that is what it's telling you. It's all about the mind. It's all about enlightenment. It's all about escaping this place and elevating yourself to a higher frequency, a higher vibration.
Nice. Now to the final, to do the finale of our show. Here, guys, I'm going to put Michael's website address up there if you guys want to go and have a look. I would suggest to go and have a look. It's a wonderful site, and if you guys want to book time with Michael, he also has that on his website. Let's just quickly go into the questions and the comments here. Returning Babylon. Okay, we've said that. Keith Baker, you said something about Jesus's 5 wounds. Does the wounds from the crown of thorns count?
The 5 wounds are the 5 senses, which basically we are trapped within. Now, when you start looking at temples of initiation, they are known as the place of thorns. So again, it relates to the initiation. Now, our 5 senses are our 5 wounds because we are dependent upon them to give the brain information where the brain creates the familiar world, our reality. So the waves of the universe are intercepted by the 5 senses, and that is passed to the brain, and the brain then interprets those 5 senses and creates this familiar world. So therefore, we never actually see the outside world. So the 5 senses are our wounds, they are our trap. And the Eye of Horus, as I've explained, tells you how to escape the 5 senses, 5 wounds of Christ. When man comes into this realm, he becomes the cross, he becomes the cubical city. And that cubical city has 6 cubes, which is the number of man. But when you put your arms out straight and you put your legs down straight, like the Vitruvian man, you become the cross. So if you continue within the 5 senses, within the 3rd dimensional realm, you will be forever on the cross. If you dig deep and if you start going into this kind of information, below the cube is the pyramid. The pyramid is really the symbol of enlightenment. So that enlightenment is dug deep within the cube, and we have to dig and find it. But in essence, the temples of initiation are the place of thorns, and the 5 wounds are the 5 senses that keep us boxed into this cubical city.
Great answer, Mike. That's a good one. Here's another one for you. Coming in from Greg B. It says, we have been told the shafts in the Great Pyramids point to a particular stars at a particular time in the past, but where does the apex of the Great Pyramid point to? That's a really great question, actually. I like that one.
It's a very, very good question. The apex of the pyramid, for me, points towards the Ra star, which is one of the solar trinity. I can get a picture and maybe I'll mark and pass out at the time. But what you have by the Pleiades constellation, you have 3. excuse me. You have 3 sun-looking stars, which is the solar trinity, and the apex of the pyramid points towards the Ra star, as do the obelisks around the world, and that really is the mysterious sort of solar trinity of light, and that is what the apex of the Great Pyramid reflects. And again, you are looking at the Orion constellation as well, which again is extremely pinnacle in terms of it is the gateway into this realm. It is the Osiris of the heavens. What you have in the Giza plateau, it sits upon the 64 keys of Enoch. It is a harmonic stargate, and when you open these stargates, you are going to the places that these monoliths and monuments are pointing towards, and that is really what they're doing. That they are accessing other worlds, and they are invoking deities from other worlds into these monuments.
Interesting. You said that Mona Lisa is also Isis. Am I right in that? Because you had that in your book here, and in the beginning, I believe, you were talking about Da Vinci's Mona Lisa is what was that lunar? Man, I've got too many books.
Well, it's Christ and the Magdalene. The Mona Lisa is Christ and Magdalene.
Yeah, that's it.
Which again, when you look at Magdalene, it's the Vesica Piscis, which is the Yoni, which is the Christian fish. the inside the inside of the two links that create the vesica piscis. And when you see the Mona Lisa's hands, it points to it's really symbolic of the Polaris diagram, which gives you 5/6, which again is Isis and Osiris and the union of the pentagram and the hexagram. So when you get the pentagram and the hexagram, the 6/5, you are musically squaring the circle, but you're also relating to the pyramid of Deshur, which is the hexagram and the pentagram as one pyramid. And it's really the pentagram and the hexagram is born from the vesica piscis, which is Mary Magdalene. So when you look at the Mona Lisa, you are looking at the Christ and the Magdalene as an androgynous union.
Okay, we're just going to bring up the image of Mona Lisa up to show her hands, just so that people can get a reference as to what you're talking about, Mike. Let me just toss that up here. In the meanwhile, while I bring that picture up, there's another question from Greg B. What is the meaning of the Pleiades?
In terms of what the Pleiades is, the Pleiades is meant to be where the universal God sits. The Pleiades is a place where many deities have come from and are here now, and many people who are, should we say, not of this world, who have agreed to come here, are from the Pleiades. But the Pleiades was seeded from the likes of Lyra, as was Sirius and different things. So the Pleiades, or the Subaru, is meant to be the crystalline cave, shall we say, of the universal creator. And it is like the seven lamps, the seven sisters, which direct you to the cave of God. But it's important in terms of extraterrestrial activity, in terms of, as I say, around the Pleiades you have the solar trinity, which relates to the Sidonian city on Mars, and also aspects of the Vatican, Jerusalem, with the obelisks pointing exactly towards the solar trinity around the Pleiades.
Now, speaking of Mars, this will be our final look in the book here for the time being. This is on page 133, Avebury and Cydonia on Mars. It says, this is, guys, on page 132, 133. It says, when we use the three-dimensional formation of the Great Pyramid using double pi, we get 9929.184896, which is the encoded grid latitude of the pyramids of Sidonian City on planet Mars. And in addition to this, famous face on Mars has a grid latitude of 4523.89321, which, when divided by the square root 2160, equals 97.386882, which is the diameter of Stonehenge. The moon has a diameter of 2159 miles, extremely close to this number. The Sidonian city on Mars is also an exact map overlay of Avebury in Wiltshire, UK. You have to ask, how is this possible? This correlation between encoded mathematical coordinates also extends to other pyramids too, such as in Mexico and elsewhere, as well as other monuments, sacred locations around the globe. We have a complex yet beautiful system of coded mathematics of the advanced level that we arrogantly believe is painted by modern science. We are very much wrong. So, how does the Sidonian city on Mars? Yeah, like this is a tough one for people to connect to, right? Because what we've been taught is that we're only from Earth and there's only life here on Earth, and any artificial, man-made structures you're only going to find on Earth. But here we have, correlations of what's happening in the UK, what's happening here on Earth, and we're seeing the same thing on Mars. And I believe it's Richard Dolan as well that's looked into this as well. But can you explain like why we have pyramids on Mars and why do we have pyramids here on Earth, and are they built by the same people? Right now, this is like a rabbit hole that can really, go keep going. So,
I'll try and make it as simple as possible. Okay. There's pyramids and man-made monuments that we know of on Venus, on the Moon, on the moons of Mars, the moons of Saturn, and obviously on Earth. If you imagine Cairo means the place or camp of Mars. If you imagine that you are part of the Sidonian city on Mars, and you wish you've already got the face, which when you put a map overlay of the face of the Sphinx of Egypt, and you put it on the face of the Sidonian city on Mars, it is a mathematical exact match. So you have this face and five-sided pyramids and etc. on Mars, and this Sidonian city that has been mapped out at 19.5 degrees. Now that is also the same degree as the major sites on Earth, the Earth belt on planet Earth. 19.5 degrees is also an abbreviation of what is known as the Nineveh constant, which is the mathematical sequence of the rotation of all planets. Now, if you imagine that I believe that the likes of the monuments and monoliths on Earth were positioned from Mars. So if you imagine you're on the face of Mars and you're looking for places of extreme amplification of energy, i.e. ley lines, etc. on Earth, and you are looking to put these sacred monuments as part of an overall solar system grid on certain places on Earth, you are mapping them based on the intensity of the energy of that place. So how are you going to do a blueprint? What they have done is they have taken the latitude and longitude two-dimensional coordinates of their monuments, and they have put that on the Earth, and that is where they have put monuments on Earth. Now, when you look at these longitude and latitude coordinates of the face on Mars, for example, it tells you exactly how to find Stonehenge. It tells you exactly how to find the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid tells you how to find Sidonian City. Stonehenge tells you how to find the face on Mars. So what they've done is they've got this magnificent mathematical blueprint, and they said, we'll put this here, and we will mark where it's going to be. We will put this here, and we will mark mathematically where it's got to be. And that is where all of these monuments have turned up. But the beauty is they not only encrypt mathematically their precise location, but they also give the location of other sacred monuments on both the planets as well. Now, when I've looked at the 6 obelisks on the Ocean of Storms on the Moon, and I've got the coordinates of the Ocean of Storms on the Moon where these 6 obelisks are, and I've put those coordinates over Earth, it's Egypt. So we have this magnificent system, this mathematical system of monoliths and monuments throughout the solar system that are basically telling you the precise location of themselves and all of these other monuments. Who put them there? The mathematical mind of the universe, what some people would see as the creator. That's who has put them there, because humanity is far behind where it should be. Humanity is struggling in terms of its timeline, in terms of its spiritual maturity, in terms of its advanced level, and we are being given a helping hand. We are being given the keys and the tools to get out of here and put ourselves back where we should be. That is what the monoliths and the monuments are there for. But they are also symbolic of other things. But in essence, they are stargates, they are harmonic, key driven, and they are an escape route. And they have all been mapped from other places within the solar system to get us out of there. It is a gigantic, magnificent demonstration of advanced mathematics, and that is what we are looking at, but sometimes through a very, very narrow telescope, because we only think that these things related to this planet. They don't.
Now, how do you explain this? That we find obelisks um, all over the solar system. Here, let me bring myself onto the stage here with you. Um, we find an obelisk on Mercury, and then we find an obelisk on Phobos, the moon of Mars, and we have obelisks on our moon, right? So why have these obelisks on these planets? Like for instance, Mercury, right, is the closest planet to the sun. You figure you're going to get burnt when, when you're there doing whatever it is that you're doing. But oddly enough, we find an obelisk there. It's proven. I'll while you're talking, I'll try to pull up the images of that, and then also on Phobos, and then on our moon. What's going on? What's the connection there with all of this?
And there's obelisks and pyramids on Venus as well, and Earth and Mars. And what's going on? We have a trail of breadcrumbs where we're being led. We're being led to back to where we should be. And the reason that they're on all of these planets is because the same thing created the planets, the same thing created these monuments, these monoliths, and it was the advanced mind. These things are obviously multifold. The mathematical, their energy. When you look at the points of these things, the apexes of these things, they contain an energy. It's like St. Elmo's fire. This peculiar phenomenon of light, and if you imagine a gigantic sort of grid, an energetic grid, where all of these things are connecting to each other in an energetic way. We know that these monuments of Earth are connected by energy lines, what we call ley lines. But what is never spoken about is the stars are also connected in the same way. They are connected by light lines, which are the equivalent of ley lines. They are energetic lines. And when you have all of these things pointing together and you have all of these things connected together, just imagine the gigantic grid of light that would be emanating from all of these fantastic monuments. It would just be a fantastic sight. It would be just absolute mind blowing. But all of these things are positioned in certain places. I think the same as the monuments on Earth are in specific places. The planets are in specific places. The stars and the constellations are in specific places. It is all the exact precise place that they need to be, and everything is connected. And at some point, the light switch will be activated, and when it does, all of these things are going to join together. They are in specific locations for a reason.
Now, is there a like how on Earth we have this energy grid line, right, or the ley lines as they're known. The pyramids on Mars, the Sidonian, and the monoliths that are there themselves. Uh, do you know if they're placed on the same grids as the energy points of the planets, like as we have here on Earth? Like for instance, we see the what are those stones called in France? Karnak, or is that what
Yeah,
they are? Those
yeah,
Karnak stones. They're on ley lines. A lot of the dolmens that we see around the planet are also placed on ley lines. Some of the megalithic structures on the planet, like at up in Russia, Mount Sharia, that is also put onto the ley lines, the energy grid line. Now I'm wondering if the ones on Mars and even these like monoliths, like for instance this one on the moon, or sorry, this is on Phobos, uh, the uh, uh, the moon on of Mars, and then this is the monolith or the obelisk on Mercury. As you guys can see clearly, it's standing there. Do you know if these are also placed on the same, following the same formula as they do on Earth?
my feeling it would have to be an absolute yes, because they're not random. Nothing is random about any of this. It is purposeful. They're put it in certain places for certain amplifications of energy, and if you are going to connect all of these different things at certain times, then they must be in the correct place. So I can't sit here and say yes, here's all the ley lines of Mercury, but I would say with a certain degree of certainty and what I know, that they are put there with purpose. So therefore, they are in the most suitable energetic place that can be possible on that planet.
And also, when we look at Cydonia, just trying to bring up an image which I can't find. But when we look at the city on Cydonia, the structures, the way that they're built, they represent the buildings that we see down in South America. For instance, like in Peru, where we have Ollantaytambo, I believe it's called, or where we have these jigsaw stones, right, that are placed in together. We see the same thing in Cydonia, and I believe it's called like the Peru City or Sacsayhuaman on Mars, something like that. What's going on with that? Like, is obviously the people that built it here on this planet. If we have the same structures that are either mimicking here on Earth or is mimicking on Mars. Do you think it's the same people that created this at relatively the same time, like a construction happening on Mars and then construction happening on Earth?
Well, it has to be, otherwise how would you know? If I was now, I mean, even on our planet now, if I was to build something here in the UK, how could you mimic what I built if you've never seen it over in Canada? You have to, in order to replicate something exactly, you have to have seen it. You have to have some kind of coordination between the two places, because it's impossible to have an exact replica without having seen it or having discussed it with the other party who was building the other part of it. So it goes without saying that it's either the one thing that has created it all, or it's civilizations who are in complete collaboration with each other in order to get these things done mathematically, energetically. Where we're going to put these things at maximum impact, it has to correlate to somewhere. How can people on Earth see what's on planet Mars? How can they see what's on the moon? How can they see what's on Phobos? How can they see what's on Venus unless they've been there?
Mm-hmm.
Or things from there have come here to say, this is what we've done there, now we'll build it here. You have to have some kind of collaboration between, otherwise it's an impossibility.
Mm-hmm. Now, that again opens up a massive rabbit hole, because then you have to ask yourself, right, a logical question, right? The logical question is that if we have the same type of structures here on Earth, and then we have the same type of structures on Mars, so would it be that when this structure was built on Mars, that it was habitable?
And it probably still is.
I
Yes.
believe I believe
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of videos where it shows plant life, a lot of water, oceans, lakes on Mars, and the red that they're showing us is just it's a lie, right? So
Well,
let's hypothesize and go with the mainstream of what they're telling us as what most people believe, that Mars is a dead planet, there's nothing alive on it. But then when we look at these structures on Mars, they would have to have been built during the time when Mars was habitable, or they used spaceships, or whatever the case may be. Like, for instance, in that movie, what is that called, Independence Day 2, where they're on the moon, they're using these vehicles and they're moving around, grabbing things. They would have either had to have something like that to build these structures with, which is pretty hard to fathom in my mind, or there was oxygen and people were just walking around working as they would here on Earth.
well, we only have the likes of NASA's word for it. That that there's nothing there. We're spending these billions looking for what was there, and we found bacteria. The monuments and monoliths of Earth, and I dare say the monuments and monoliths of other places and other planets, they are portals, they are gateways, and you don't build a gateway unless it's going somewhere. So when you look at Stonehenge, it is aligned with Saturn. When you look at Silbury Hill, which is one of the pictures that you showed, it relates to Earth and Mars. So people have gone missing from the centre of Stonehenge. When you look at, again, the harmonic keys underneath the 64 keys of Enoch below the Great Pyramid in Giza, when you hit the 64th note, the hemi-demi semi-quaver, you open the Stargate. If you have the right octaves, the right tones. I've experienced personally inside Stonehenge this at work. So you have portals and you have the keys to open portals to other places. That is what we have. So we have these civilizations that are transporting themselves to other places, to other worlds, and vice versa. And again, going back to the beginning, when we talked about magic and we talked about evoking and creating the environment and the space for entities to come into this realm, then you have to have certain geometric shapes, certain octaves, certain sounds. And if you look at all of these ancient places, they were sonic buildings. They were circles and they were triangles. They were creating the environment for these entities to come into this realm.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, because I just recently watched a video. You're probably aware of him. His name is Praveen Mohan. I believe that's his name. Praveen Mohan. He has a mega channel on YouTube, and he concentrates on India and ancient India, and he duplicates technology and such. A super cool channel, very great videos. But I just watched a video from him just recently, and in this video, he was talking about pretty much the same thing what you have, right? He went into this temple. It looks nothing. It looks like nothing when you walk by. It's in the middle of a huge city. I forgot which city this was in. I'll try to find the description and a link to that video, and I'll post it in the description of this video if you guys want to go and check that out. But anyways, what he did is he went into this temple, and then he's seen these pillars, right? And then he'd heard through the grapevine that the pillar comes up like this, and there's a circular thing up top, and then it goes up again. Now, what this pillar does is that you can go up and you can turn the wheel of these pillars in this temple. And he was saying that there's a temple not too far from, about 100 miles from this one particular temple where he was at. This other temple that they'd found a Vimana underneath this temple. And then when he was talking about this temple, he was hypothesizing that because you can turn these wheels, what if this temple is working in the same manner as like a lock, a bike lock where, you turn one, you get the code, and then the other, and then the other. So he was hypothesizing that, the 6 pillars that are there, if you sequence them properly, I wonder what would happen. Now, he was talking about Vimanas, right? Like, he was saying that, what if you put in the proper code for it and the floor opened up and boom, there was a Vimana underneath. But now that you were talking, it came to my mind that what if, you turn those dials and then you set it up like a Stargate, right? And then something opened up, the floor opened up, or whatever the case may be, and a portal opened up, and then you can travel through that portal and go elsewhere. Because you look at a lot of these Indian Vimanas, the Indian temples, they look like Vimanas. They have a pyramidal shape to them, or an obelisk or a monolith type of shape to them. So I wonder if that's something that's here as well, because it kind of reminds me of Pharaoh Onus, right? Because Pharaoh Onus has said to have traveled to the Orion star system a number of times, where he used a portal, he went there, came back, went there, came back. So I wonder if the same thing what you're talking about as, Stonehenge and all of these places being stargates.
That's exactly what they are. And I've actually seen, I've been shown and I've seen things transporting through frequency and appearing through frequency and disappearing through the change of frequency. And certain shapes, we've seen the likes of crop circles and Nazca lines and snowflakes, that it is certain sounds that create certain shapes. You know, when you look at the likes of crop circles, why are they all around Stonehenge? Because Stonehenge is connected to Saturn, and it is sounds coming from the rings of Saturn that are creating the pictorial messages on the Avebury Plains by Stonehenge, because Stonehenge is the aerial receiver, and that is basically taking the sound and it is creating the pattern of that sound on the landscape of Wiltshire. So they are all, shall we say, harmonic keys, and these harmonic keys require certain geometric shapes, certain frequencies, and that's why they're all temples of resonance, because it is the resonance that are opening the gateways, and they are transporting people from different places depending upon the frequency of where they're going. And that's exactly what is happening all over the world in these ancient temples.
Just want to toss this out here. I had a question. I'm just looking for it. I don't know where it went in the comments here, Mike. Do you know Gary Wayne? He's a author out of Langley, British Columbia. He's not too far from me, just up the road. If you guys are interested, I did a couple of talks with Gary Wayne. And if you go to our homepage, the videos are there. He's a fantastic speaker. He's got great knowledge. Actually, I should try to get you two together on the same screen. He wrote the book, The Genesis 6 Conspiracy. It took him years and years and years. I forgot how long, 14 years or something like that, to write the book. It's like that thing, Mike. It's like a encyclopedia. Here's a great comment. Mr. Feeley's books seem very good study to more fully understand this governing belief system of the elite rulers, mystery school, or religion. Yeah, absolutely. Check out Michael's books on his website, michaelfeeley-.com. And we'll do this one final question, Mike, and we'll call it a day. And it's coming from Keith Baker, saying, do you have anything today about the cattle corrals in South Africa? I think what... Keith, maybe you can correct me on this. If not, the cattle corrals you're talking about, are those the circles that Michael Tallinger is talking about? The stone circles, and there's like millions of them in South Africa. If that's what you're talking about, toss that in the comments. Do you know anything about that, Mike?
Yeah, but brief again. Stone circles are the magic circle. So when you stand in the center of a circle, it's represented by when you see in the church the circle and the dot in the middle. Now, when you stand in the center of a circle, you are standing in God's place. You are basically in the center of the macrocosm and the microcosm. You are creating that magic circle, which again is the environment for entities from any of the three kingdoms to come into your realm. But because you've created that circle, you are in control of that space. So you can't be manipulated by the beings that are coming through, or you can't be hijacked by lower entities. So when you start seeing circles, they are magic circles. They are the space in which to evoke and bring things in by certain rituals, by certain words, by certain magic formulas, which again, you go into Yahweh, Jehovah, Ra, Enki, Enlil. All of these are magical formulas through letters. So that is that is what they are doing. They are practicing evoking spirits and entities from other realms into this one, and it is that safe space. It is the correct vibratory environment for these things to come into a compatible space.
This would be the symbol that you're talking about. This is the alchemy symbol, but it's also used as a symbol for Saturn too, right?
It's also a symbol in the church for the monad as well, which is the central creator. So when you stand in the center of the circle, which is the shape of creation, you are basically at the center of microcosm, macrocosm, which is basically the seat of God. So you are controlling that space. The very idea of having magic wands is the control of that space. So they are creating, as with Stonehenge, they are creating the environment, the magic circle in which to bring these things in. And that's what we're seeing throughout the ancient world in these circular and triangular shapes.
All right. Very cool. Thank you very much, Mike. Let's just quickly share a screen here. And guys, this is Michael Feeley's website. I would encourage you guys to go and visit. There's just a lot of great stuff on here, and this will also help you to understand Michael Feeley's work, in a little bit more depth, a little bit more detail. And also, actually, I'll touch this up here just before we close up. Just want to quickly cruise through Michael's website so you guys can go and have a look. As you can see, he was at UFOCon 2020, which is right here. An interesting thing happened there. Maybe Mike will touch on that. We carry on, and here's all of Mike's books. The series point, is that out, Mike?
No, it's still in writing, as is the Sacred Christ, but they're the two that are in writing at the moment. The last one was Alchemy of the Gods.
Can't wait to get that one either. Read and study that. And if you guys want to join Michael Feeley's website, and here are some things that he is offering. For level 1, Michael Feeley's newsletter direct to your email. And then level 2 is Michael Feeley's newsletter and free entry into Michael's webinars. And the level 3, Michael Feeley's newsletter, free entry into Michael's webinars, and a 20-minute one-on-one Skype session with Mike. If you guys are interested in that, I would sign up for that, guys. It's totally worth it. Mike, you're doing monthly webinars now as well, right? So when is your next webinar coming up so that people can sign up for that? And yeah.
The next one, actually, for the newsletter subscribers is this Saturday evening, which is 7 o'clock my time. So wherever you are in the world, it's 7 p.m. GMT London time this Saturday. And basically there's quite a few things coming up. I'm speaking at the Global Pyramid Conference in Chicago at the end of next month. Even though I can't get there because of travel restrictions, I'm doing it by live stream. So I'm doing that and doing lots and lots of other things at the moment as well. So there's lots in the sort of in the pipeline. But the next webinar, exclusive for newsletter subscribers, is Saturday evening.
Awesome. And you just did some recording with David Icke for his iconic channel. Where can people find that? And
I did recently did a documentary series called Higher Consciousness, and that again is on Iconic TV. I also did or featured in a movie called Divine Intervention, and that had David Icke and the likes of Eric Van Daniken in there as well. And one of my face-to-face meetings with an ET was actually reconstructed by an actor. So I took part in the reconstruction of that event as well, which brought back quite a few memories. And there's other things in the pipeline with them as well, which we need. I sort of need to have meetings with them later on in the year to discuss that. So there's a few things coming. There's been a few things that have gone, which will be sort of in the movie reels forever, I hope. But it's all to do with, let's get our house in order here, and let's put ourselves back on the right path, and get ourselves to where we should be.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Mike, for your time today. This was an excellent talk. Really enjoyed it. And you guys, if you want to, find Michael's books, for instance, this one, The Secrets of the Pyramids, or The Ancient Code. I've got a couple others over here as well. Let me just pull them out. we'll do talks on these ones too in here in the very near future. Alchemy of the Gods. If you guys are interested, you guys can place an order for that as well. And the Code of Christ. I really enjoyed this book. It was a good one. I think maybe we should do a talk on this book next. Wonderful, guys. And you guys head on over to michaelfeeley.com and place your orders for your books directly from the website. Like I said earlier, Amazon is just it's not a happening thing. Why make Bozos any more money than what Bozos already has? And there's perks to ordering directly from Mike. One, you're helping out an author, and second, like I said, you will get a written message, right? A little message for yourself in the book with autographed, and that's always better to have than just an Amazon book just pop up on your door. And there's nothing personal about that. And I like enjoyed going on this route. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching us here on Watchers Talk today. After this is over, please head on over to Michael Feeley's YouTube channel and subscribe to that. And don't forget to hit the bell. So when Mike puts up videos, you will get notified. And also to Full Spectrum Universe. Rob does a lot of great work. We collaborate a lot. We do a lot of events together. And he has a wonderful channel with a lot of great things going on over there. So please head on over there and check out some videos and subscribe to his channel. And always, as always, please hit that bell so that you get notified when when either one of us are uploading a video or going live. It helps out a great deal to all the channels. And as well, YouTube has offered us a members option. So, I would appreciate if you guys sign up for level 1 or level 2. It really helps out the channel, but as well, it really helps out the community in general, because there's a lot of speakers out there who wish to get paid for their time, which they're more than they've earned it, but because I don't have the funds to give them the $500 or the $1,000 that they want, it really limits my reach. And with you guys signing up for our members program, that really gives me an extra tool in my toolbox to reach out to different speakers to bring them onto our on our platform and give you guys a download. And of course, got to download myself. So I would really appreciate that. And as well, like I was saying just a few minutes ago, we have a conference which is starting tomorrow, which is Portal to Ascension's annual summit that's happening October 1st through the 4th, starting tomorrow. You guys can head over to portaltoascension.org to sign up. It's a free or by donation event. 44 speakers over 4 days, and I'll be interviewing a few of them, introducing a few of them, and then I'll be doing a presentation at this summit as well. So guys, check that out. And if you guys want, head over to Portal to Ascension's YouTube channel and check out what they got going on. Neil always has something streaming live on his channel almost on a daily basis. So guys, thank you very much. I love you guys a lot, and I appreciate you guys' support over the years and in the coming years. I love you guys a lot. My name is Omar, and I'm the host here at Watchers Talk, coming at you guys from British Columbia, Canada, with my guest and friend Michael Feeley from the United Kingdom. Be safe out there, take care of one another, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow at the Portal to Ascension Summit. Have a wonderful day, guys. And as well, today is the National Day of Reconciliation and Truth here in Canada. And every child life matters. Recently, they discovered thousands of graves across Canada from the residential school era, which is just a terrible thing. But at least we're coming together now and beginning to understand and reconcile and learn the truth of what happened. So participate in the activities. Wear orange today to show your support. So thank you very much, everyone. I love you guys a lot, and I will see you next time we are live. Good night for now.